We used dance, we used films, and in a night we would get like 600 people testing. So which was also commendable, but then after we left, then what? So when we were challenged and asked that, well, that's when we also got thinking and decided, let us put the skills in the communities such that those communities can continue having the conversations, do films. So in 2016, we started training filmmakers, as I already explained to you, in Karamoja, in Rwenzori region, or at least 7 districts in Rwenzori region, Kasese was 2, including Bwera, Ntoroko, Bundibujo, okay, almost all the districts of Rwenzori. Then in Karamoja, we covered almost all the districts of Karamoja except Amdat, where we got one because the people of Amdat don't call themselves Karamojons. They think they are Kenyan, they listen to Kenyan radio stations, and the infrastructure is not there anyway. Then we also trained people from West Nile, but it's people who came for the training in Kasese, an amazing guy who went back and trained people. And that's how we have people like Josephine coming in to join us. Then we had people from, like, I think Teso and Kampala. Why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this that this project feeds into what we do because we want to take media in the communities, because media can also be culture, and I think we've discussed it previously, but I'm repeating it because there are people who didn't join us online. And the way I perceive things is not the same way people in Masindi perceive things, or people in Mayuge or Kamuli will interrogate things. So, and we have seen that after we trained, and there are other energies, but also ours, we see more stories coming from Karamoja, but from a Karamojong perspective. And that is very important. So when White Ribbon Alliance embarks on a project, and a project of respectful maternity care, why do they do respectful maternity care? They're looking at respectful maternity care from a perspective of over 70% of the death that we get, like maternal mortality. Those are deaths that could be prevented if women went and got professional caretaking, if they got professionals to handle the delivery. And 99% of those deaths are in developing countries, including Uganda. And we have made a little bit of gains that it has reduced, because previously I think we used to lose 410 women per 100,000 births. And now it has reduced to 326, but it's still bad, losing 326 women. Why? Because women are, among other things, mistreated in hospitals. When they are mistreated in hospitals, they would rather keep their dignity. They would rather not be, because already you're delivering, like, I was reading in some of the literature that was available, and a woman was saying, imagine for 9 months, someone is showering you, the community is celebrating you as a woman who is going to deliver. But for this 1 or 2 hours where you're going to deliver, someone disrespects you, beats you up, abuses you emotionally, physically, and you would rather go to a caretaker who is going to handle you very well, even if they are not professional. Or you would rather risk your life there than die in this, because even emotional can kill. But why do healthcare providers physically and verbally abuse women? Part of that is because they're overwhelmed. It's not an excuse, but if a woman has 20 mothers to tend to as a midwife, and those 20 mothers she has to tend to, one is making noise, but there's another one she's supposed to do, or is not doing what she's supposed to do, in the perspective of this woman, who may be very poorly paid, who may not have had lunch, who might be working long hours. Maybe she's going, it's not right, but maybe she's going to work. But culture, in a way, has accepted that. We have not come out to denounce that as communities, as people, as media. So the media, if they could get those stories and put them out, I may, as Sarah, not get that story of Masindi or Kamuli or even explain. And the language barrier, the person might not explain to me. And when we were in a workshop in Rubaga, we had things that people today might find primitive. The second child, Navana, placenta, in Buganda they call it the second child. They bury it, and a woman could be tortured if you don't give them the opportunity to go and bury it near a banana plantation. And maybe you're not going to tell the nurse those things. So maybe they don't know there are these cultural dimensions and everything. But the media could be helpful in, for instance, getting those stories and doing a cultural report of why certain women will not go to the toilet when they are pregnant. You understand? And it is not right. But if you are a caretaker and you have this woman who wants to go and poo in the corner there because she's not supposed to, and this is a space for many other people, what will happen? The caretaker will say, that's unhealthy, this, you can't do that. But there was no conversation. She didn't come for antenatal, she didn't come for that. So White Ribbon Alliance recognizes that if these things have to be handled, we have to onboard communities, we have to make sure that we expose the things that are happening to policy. I'll be talking about this later. We have to make sure that the caregivers are also facilitated, well paid. We celebrate the people who are doing the great things, but we are also talking about the impediments, like people, when we were in Rubaga, for instance, they were telling us that you come and someone doesn't have a kit. We are supposed to handle about, say, 100,000 cases, but because Kampala is a refugee area host and many other people from neighboring towns come here, we are handling about 300,000 people. If you report that these people are overwhelmed because of this and that, then you're bringing that to policy. And how does it happen? Stories, because sometimes in film, you start with one story, and that one story is going to represent the majority, because then people start relating with it. So since we use art and we use film and we use media, they were like, okay, let us now onboard native voices to work with the media. Why? Because even the subject of respectful maternity care, I think, is a new subject. I don't know if many of you had heard about respectful maternity care before. I know Herbert is going to talk about the things of choices and other things, but had you, before this project, heard about respectful maternity care? Not maternal health, but respectful maternity care. Had anyone heard about it? So it's a new subject, right? So, but it is very important that it feeds into reducing and undermining maternal mortality and morbidity. But we have to have the people come on board. And then there's also a challenge that, look at this room, for instance. We are promoting respectful maternity care, but the men are here. The women are not here. And how many women would love to talk to a man about something as private as delivery? So if they are going to do it, it will require skill, language, leaving the biases, empathy, compassion, which maybe a reporter who is rushing to do a story and make a headline might not have time to do. So all those are things that we need to have a conversation. So that's why then White Ribbon Alliance comes to us, and that's why we started with the orientation. But because White Ribbon Alliance is a people-led movement, as you may already know, and they look at solutions, actions, and everything, also coming from communities and from people, but the media, given its potential, want to dissect information and break it in a manner that people can perceive it, but also the mass reach, then they are critical partners. So that's how we end up here, and we look forward to working with you. Today in the training and subsequent times, we are going to look at how do we, because we understand as media you have challenges, yeah? You're here, some of you are senior reporters, so it is a competitive advantage probably, but we also need young people on board. What are the chances that you're going to do a story and your editor will run it? how do we work together to make sure that they run it? Medias are businesses. They need to sell, they need to make headlines, they need people to give them money. Like if you say the project is sponsored by USAID has not given us advertisement money. USAID has only facilitated us to train journalists. But the media person who has bills to pay, salaries to pay, may not want to hear that. So how do we work with you to have those people understand that, one, it's corporate social responsibility, that actually there is no interest of like money, but maybe we need to do it, but that probably if it comes, maybe we'll look at ways to work. So those are some of the things when we are here, we will discuss. The respectful maternity care is a global movement in many countries, Nepal, so the journalists who are doing this work are actually celebrated. So maybe it is something that is going to start, and maybe it doesn't have as much financial benefits as probably people would love. But probably you're helping society, probably you're going to get connected to a network of all these things. Probably you're also going to get into partnership with things like USAID and White Ribbon Alliance and future projects like the one that Mona Herbert is going to talk about. Probably there are some of you there who want to become filmmakers. And probably the next project we do, we are like, the people we worked with, let us invite them to come and do a filmmaking project and do projects together, because now we are a team. Those and more are some of the things that we hope will come out of this national hub. And some of the things that I have pinched on, I'll dwell into later. But for now, permit me to make way for Mona Herbert to come and talk about respectful maternity care. Thank you very much. And I feel it's not a time for questions. So Herbert, are you set? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Morning once again. I'll try and loop this just a moment so that it can be heard. Is it okay? Just a second. It's okay. Okay, Alan is going to help me kind of...
I'm sorry for interrupting, but for the video,
yes.
I think Eva was concerned because
she doesn't want the loop. But I think it can pick here.
It can.
Okay, then that's fine. I can be audible enough. This is not really a big room, so we can cover it quite efficiently. First off, thank you for being here. And as Sarah said, I want to pick it up from there before we get a few slides coming from Alan. Maybe we'll have an interlude of about 3-4 minutes with questions as Alan sets up the second part of our presentation. But first things first. We are here because for the first time, we decided and said, as people who've worked on both extremes, Sarah talked about us starting in media like you, and then gravitating into the world of development work. And we've been privileged to do that. Worked in development cooperation for quite some time. Personally, I've worked in community programming. I've had the opportunity to work on specific programs and Having come with a media background and communications, I shifted into advocacy, which is wonderful work. And then, during all this experience, I never forgot my roots of media and how media works. But also understanding the landscape of how media operates in Uganda and where we work. So we decided that, okay, I think it's time that for us we need now to kind of build a bridge. So we are going to talk specifically about respectful maternity care. Why? Because that is the theme that we are focusing on now. With the support of White Ribbon Alliance as an implementing agency, which is now partnering with Native Voices International and the Media Ideas Shop. But we are being supported to do this work by USAID, which works through an organization called the East-West Management Institute, okay? And they implement a project called Civil Society Strengthening Activity. Now, this project is supposed to advance the strength of civil society organizations and what they do. But ladies and gentlemen, I need you to appreciate that when it comes to media, media plays a big role, especially when we are doing advocacy. It just so happens that the media people most of the times will always look at themselves as we are media. Okay? And we know our job. Totally, I agree. And the gentlemen seated in here, the ladies seated in here, you're practical people. Basically, now we are in your realm and where you sit comfortably, okay? And those online share the same expertise. The opportunity that we've not explored is what we are going to be discussing shortly after the brief about respectful maternity care and what we are trying to do, okay? And that is very important. So, before we go into our role as media, why are we here if we are talking about a project on respectful maternity care, what we want to do, what we want to change, and like how does media come in? And that is what I'm going to explain. But let me just talk about respectful maternity care very, very briefly, okay? Number one, as Sarah said, we can sit here and discuss the semantics and we talk about the policies and the like, but we are going to furnish you with all this information. And you're good at data mining. I know you look at all the policies that define maternal health in Uganda, you look at all the statistics and the like. But what is important right now is for us to go back and contextualize and put this whole issue of respectful maternity care into our own context. And for a moment, even forget about being a media practitioner. Just put it in your context as a human being, okay? That when we begin to appreciate and talk about what this space is, the community, we are really talking about mothers, okay? And who are the mothers? First of all, you have your own mother, okay? The person you call and you say, "Mommy, how are you?" The people we celebrate on Mother's Day. But if I take a big assumption and say all the people who are seated in here now have partners, okay? Those are mothers as well. All of us have siblings who are sisters of the opposite sex, including our sisters in this room. All these technicians you see, they are all mothers. So when you talk about respectful maternity care, you're talking about a mother. It could be your wife, it could be your partner, it could be your real mother, it could be your friend's wife, it could be your neighbor. These are people who are part of our lives, who sit with us, who live with us in our communities. But there is always that tendency that the issues surrounding their responsibility of motherhood are between them and the service providers. Or it's the responsibility of government, or it's the responsibility of this and the other, okay? Or the husband, the partner, the spouse. During the COVID lockdown, are you all aware that the teenage pregnancy cases in Uganda escalated? Okay? But this is not to say that before COVID it wasn't happening. Okay? It only questions that, okay, is it that only when young girls are in school that they will be protected? That's the only social protection net that they have? Okay? And the other thing is, who is responsible for all these pregnancies? That should tell you something about our society. Okay? Because when you go and look at slogans like the UN, UNFPA, UNICEF, and they carry slogans such as, let girls be girls. Okay? Motherhood is important. Motherhood should be celebrated. But at which point does motherhood become a burden and a problem? And actually a threat? Okay? So then you begin to interrogate further. What is actually the problem? When you coin the term respectful maternity care, what is exactly the problem there? Because respectful maternity care, as Sarah talked about, you see this entire circular. It's talking about respectful maternity care, nothing more. Okay? So we can sit here and define it and go into the scientific terms, but just look at all these compassionate healthcare providers. That is our heroes. I always call them the heroes. You know, when you go into the maternity wards, you'll find the senior nurses, you'll find the midwives, you'll find the gynecologists who are the doctors, okay? The in-charges and the like. These are supposed to be our heroes. So why should we coin the term compassionate health care? Why should we talking about healthy and hygienic labor wards? Okay? The point we are trying to raise here is that there is an issue. We have some issues, okay? And at the end of the day, these issues should be addressed by certain people, by certain stakeholders. Next question, who are these stakeholders? I told you let's forget for a moment that we are journalists, because if we think as journalists, we might be biased, okay? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't think as journalists. I'm just saying for our interaction right now, let's distance ourselves from our professions and just be women, men. Let's be Ugandans and talk about this, okay? Because if someone is going to say effective communication, what does it really mean? If someone says providing equitable health care, okay? Reduction of preventable maternal morbidity and mortality. Some of these words are too big. We even need to break them down, okay? But the point, the central point here is that in Uganda, and we are privileged that in the afternoon, Dr. Lukoda is going to be here. Dr. Lukoda, along with Dr. Wanyana, they are part of the research group and an organization called Samasha Medical Foundation, okay? So he's going to be here, and he's going to present to us the actual findings, the things they found out when they went into the districts where you guys come from. They are going to give us first-hand information of what they did when they carried out an assessment, a rapid assessment on respectful maternity care. So they are going to tell us the actual issues that they found on the ground. And this is where I beg your alertness. When you listen to these actual issues, please keep an open mind and be objective, because some of these issues are going to be attached to what I will call different levels. Number one, we have the community. When we talk about motherhood and respectful maternity care, the community where these mothers are coming from should be playing a certain role. Are they playing it? Question mark. Then they go where? We are encouraging them that let them go to health facilities and healthcare centers to get a service. What kind of service do they find there? Sarah hinted on the fact that there are some women who will deliberately say, no, I cannot go to that health center. I cannot go to that major hospital. If there are issues, we'll hear from Dr. Lukoda, okay? And at the end of the day, this is a republic, ladies and gentlemen, a republic called Uganda, where certain rights should be guaranteed. That is the overarching assumption, all right? That there are entitlements. When we talk about respect for maternity care, there are rights in there, okay? That a woman should feel respected because they are bringing a life. So, what is the role of leadership in this issue? And what are they doing at the moment? And when we talk about government, I think in Uganda we are now we are getting or catching up so fast to the idea that the moment you say the government, there are specific individuals people will look at. Everyone in Uganda likes to look at the president, okay? Yes, he's the fountain of honor, and yes, he's the key decision maker. But when we coin the term government, let's break it down. Which is the smallest unit of government in Uganda, where decisions are made, or even laws? LC1. It's at the village. But everyone is going to look at office of the president, ministry, parliamentarians, these good for nothing, others are struggling in there trying to make it and the like. Then we go to the district and the like, oh, this entire emblem of government. So if there are things we can identify that we can talk about, that they are important, okay? And we can identify that these specific actions should be taking place at the grassroots, at the LC1, at the Muluka chief, at the LC3, go up all the way to the district, then government, then wherever. We need to be able to have these eyes that stretch that far. And these eyes should be able to help us. And that is the key point. So, bringing us back into the loop. Respectful maternity care, for us as journalists, we decided in designing this project that instead of always as traditionally bringing on board journalists when we are having meetings, some of you have been to these meetings, when we had validation meetings in Masindi, Jinja, Iganga, Kamuli, you were there, even in Kampala, okay? Because I can recall all the faces. Some of us have become very close friends and I hope we can bond even more, okay? Because we have a lot of work to do. But this is not the kind of relationship that we are only looking out for. And this is why we decided to create this media lab. We are saying we no longer just want to come and cover a news event, 1 minute. Oh, in Uganda, this is happening. According to so-and-so, he has said, and this and this and this. Our usual flow. We can write it blindfolded, the report, and it's out. My interest, Natives' interest, White Ribbon, and our funders, they are all pushing for one thing, that let's create an entity where we are champions ourselves, okay? Where beyond the day-to-day work that we do, we can sit back, investigate, sit back and ask ourselves, what more can I do, okay? And ladies and gentlemen, that's how we invite you into this media lab. That this project is meant to advance advocacy, for us to advocate that there should be guaranteed respectful maternity care in Uganda. However, we are starting in only the districts of Kamuli, Iganga, Jinja, both the district and the city, okay, and Masindi, and then we are also looking into Kampala, okay, but through another project arm, okay. And our interest here is if we can demonstrate by saying that if we build a partnership that works, okay, if we can demonstrate that, then maybe other stakeholders and other players can take our models and what we've done and be able to replicate them in the rest of the districts in Uganda. And so, it brings us down to, what about us as media? What do you want from us? And the point here is that for us, we believe that media can do a lot more than just reporting us a news story. That is my conviction. That's the conviction of Native Voices. They've done it so many times. And White Ribbon Alliance said, yes, we should do this. I think we need to begin innovating and building around certain stakeholder groups that we always just bring on board as a snapshot. We need to begin engaging. And that is why under the Media Idea Shop, you see those acronyms: participate, interact, engage for development. And that is going to continue. Why are we pushing for this? We are pushing for this particularly because I would love a situation whereby if you choose and say that I'm going to cover a story, a feature story, Someone is willing to do even just a photo documentary. Someone else is willing to do a news clip. Someone is willing to write a blog. Someone is going to do a podcast. And we all reinforce. Because what is happening at the moment is, a lot of you guys will work in silos. But for the first time, you get people from Masinda getting to meet colleagues from Eastern. Okay? And you get to hear what they are saying, how they are doing their work and the like. Despite the fact that some of you actually, from your introductions, you work in the same organizations. Someone says, oh, I'm with Vision Group, I'm in Masindi. Another one says, I'm with Vision Group, I'm in Uganda. And say, oh, I've seen your byline somewhere. You've never even met this person. Yet, you can begin to twin stories, you can begin to network. You can tell them, guys, I'm working on this story. Do you think you can do something in your area so that we write a combined report? Because it will carry more weight. Let's triangulate our efforts. Let's do this and the other. Of course, we are going to go into a few details and more details of how we are going to be able to do that. But the point here is that as organizations, as civil society continues to do advocacy, our job really is going to be that we too, as media, are going to begin appreciating, and that is why I'm so passionate about this. We are going to appreciate that we can do so much more to also do advocacy. Why? Because now I ask you to jump back into the neutral ground. You are part of this community. You are part of this society. And at some point, you always have to ask yourself the fundamental question, what more can I do to influence the change that I want to see in this society? You're talking about a change that will impact your sister, if we are talking about respect maternity care. You're talking about a change that will impact women in your community where you come from. Okay? And you get to begin to appreciate that when I do my work as a media professional and I use it to do advocacy, I can impact change in this country. Okay? Because that's what we want. That's what we want to see. Ladies and gentlemen, when you look at our country, Uganda, it's such a beautiful country with a lot of resources. Ask yourself, why is it that sometimes we have inadequate services? Who is responsible for that? And we are not saying that we are going to go out as media, sometimes we are branded, that we are attacking, no, we are engaging. We want to show social accountability. We want to engage in a leadership. You know, we want people to sit on the same table and we say, what can we do? Sometimes when you do your work, what happens is it increases the attention on an issue. Even someone who has the intention to help will say, but this issue is being reported about so much. I think I should take an interest. You see, there you're already playing your role. So it's not like when we do our work, we are always tracing problems. We are finger pointing. No. We deliberately choose to say that this issue is important to us. It's important to me as a person. And when this and that and the other happens, I think there's going to be a change in my society. And that change will impact the way people live. At the end of the day, and I don't doubt this, we all work because we have to earn a living, and that is very important, and that always has to be part of the equation. But there is always also a passion that can come with our work and the satisfaction that we get from it. Recently, we were attending a workshop, and someone was raising an issue saying, look, we like the capacity building that you give us, but it's too much, and it's taking a lot of time away from our work. And one respondent said, look, if you don't even appreciate this capacity building that you're talking about, then maybe you shouldn't be taking it, because for me, if there is an opportunity to take capacity that makes me stronger to do my work, I will take it, especially if it has been offered and I can ably afford it. All it asks for is time, okay? So when we talk about setting a new course, working with media to advance advocacy, this is really exciting stuff. And at the end of the day, it's not going to take away from your time. It's not even going to change what you're doing. But you will have a different pair of lenses and the way you do your work. And that will impact a lot of things. What I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is that it will change the way you work and it will open doors for you to explore and do a lot of work. I say this because I'm a product of exactly that. That most of the advocacy work that I've successfully done or I've managed to do, I didn't do because, oh, I woke up and I had an auto switch. No. It was because I chose to use my craft of media experience and training, and I took it into advocacy. And there I was always defining what can I do, what issues can I advance, okay? And now I would want to just briefly talk about advocacy just for maybe 10, 15 minutes and then I'll stop, okay? So what is advocacy? Because I know you've heard I'm always throwing that word around, but you're saying, what is he talking about? What is he really talking about? Okay? Advocacy is an exciting field. It's an interesting piece of work that we can do to advance development, to advance engagements and the like. What I can tell you from the onset is that when you've been practicing media, you're already, I think, 60 or 70% an advocate. Because advocacy carries very basic things. One of the major things you have to do if you're an advocate is you have to talk. You have to speak up and people have to listen. Now, who does that better than the media? That's why sometimes when you guys come into certain places, people want to lock their doors and lock you out because those people make a lot of noise. They even call it noise. Okay? Why? Because you have a mouthpiece. Because you have a platform. And your platforms are huge. And that sometimes scares people. Do you know why? Especially if you're going to talk about something that rubs them the wrong way. Now, I can tell you from the onset that when you go out and you say, I'm going to do media advocacy, there will be times, and those will be plenty, when you will unintentionally step on people's toes. Having a conscience and knowing that is always a good thing. But sometimes you'll do work, and the outcome still gives the same impression that you're stepping on people's toes, even when that wasn't your intention. But that shouldn't worry you because if we are calling it kind of an eye of the storm, you're already there. We can talk about press freedoms, we can talk about so many things and the like. Why do you think people are always apprehensive when they see you? Why is it that there has been so many incidences that are happening to our colleagues in as far as our profession goes? Actually, to the point that some people begin to say, I think people who are in the media profession, they are an endangered species. Especially if they are operating in Uganda. Why has that been the case? Because there has been a lot of altercations between us and the powers that be. And that can be at different levels. At different levels, it doesn't matter. It can be at the grassroots, it can be in the districts, it can be at the national level, anywhere. But that cannot stop us or deter us from doing our work. Okay? So, I want to try and define advocacy, but using our case subject here of respect for maternity care, okay? And this is how I would say.
Bluetooth connection.
If you took an issue, which is respect for maternity care, and you decided to advance that issue, and you talked about it, like we're already doing, although now we are going to go deeper into all the innovations that we can put around our professions, okay? But if you took that issue and you advanced it and you amplified it to a specific target audience, okay? With the primary intention of influencing decisions that are going to be made around that issue, and you coined a specific message to the target, you're doing advocacy. Okay? So let me break it down. You take an issue, and our issue here is respect for maternity care. That is our issue. But we can even decide to say that respect for maternity care can be a theme, can be an issue. But when we are doing advocacy, we will reach a point where, as media people, you want to say, respectful maternity care, but what am I going to focus on? There are so many things around it. I want for me to focus on this and that and the other. 2 or 3, okay? That is you now being very focused, and that is very important for advocacy. Why? Because one of the things about advocacy is when you're going to do advocacy and you want to get the best impact out of it, you have to reinforce. You guys all work in electronic and other forms of media. You realize that when the advertisers come into radios or TV, they want to reinforce a certain message again and again and again and again, that you can hear the same message throughout the day running again and again. That reinforcement is to ensure that you're maximizing that message reaching that audience. And even when they don't intend to hear it, I promise you, it creeps up on them and it catches up. Okay? Which is the most famous MTN jingle running right now? You've all heard this jingle of I don't have, Usmani, you said I don't have work or whatever. Yes. It's all over the place. Because if I turn into the radio, it's there. If I go to TV, it's there. If I go online, even on YouTube, it's there. Reinforcing. Okay? So, the one thing that you need to do in advocacy, and this is why it explains the Media Lab. If someone in Uganda or in Kamuli decides to write a piece in the Chimp Reports, okay? And it runs. Yeah, it came out. Maybe Chimp Reports has its own audience, but who is to say that the target audience in Chimp Reports is concentrated only in Kamuli, you know? Or that they are the people who are down at the grassroots. We can't say. It's so different if someone from Chimp Reports is writing a story and they call someone in Masindi who is on an FM station, call someone in Iganga, call someone, and that there is a collaboration of how this story is going to run and unfold. The other person is a blogger. This other person is an audiovisual journalist. This one is taking photos. The other one is doing this and the other, okay? Including community radio, where these guys have these amplifiers and the like, But if they all coordinate a story and they begin running this series of stories, okay? Very soon it catches up. Because you're all simultaneously pushing the same narrative. And what is important is your message should be consistent. You should be all running after the same themes or topics. Because at the end of the day, someone will begin to ask, what's going on? What is happening? Everyone is talking about maternity respect, maternity care, yet they are dispersed. But because you're all doing advocacy now, you're coordinating your voices. Second point is, you have to be sure, who am I targeting? You can't shoot in the dark. With advocacy, you can never shoot blind. And the best way to do advocacy is always to send a direct message to someone who you know has the power to decide. Otherwise, someone will ask you, yes, you communicated about what to who. You understand? And the reason why we do advocacy is because we want to see a change in our community. We want to see our mothers get the dignity that they deserve. Okay? We want to see, you will not believe it, but part of your work will be responsible in maybe a year or so for the increased numbers of women who've been giving birth, Mubitoke, a car, with the traditional birth attendants, okay, who are not qualified to handle complications. Yeah? You'll see these women walk into health centers. Why? Because 6 months down the road ago, you did something which sparked a lot of debate in Masindi, in Kamuli. And because of that debate, the leadership, the stakeholders, they all sat together and they said, no, we need to change this. We need to have better sanitation. We need to have better washrooms and whatever. We need water, we need this and the other. The district is going to allocate money. And out of your reports and out of your initiative, all that happened. Now, what happened when all that happened? No, we need to ensure that our midwives and nurses are well compensated, they receive good training in PR and the like, so that the women can come. A year later, you find that the increases at the maternity ward have increased and more women are walking in. And that is thanks to your work, ladies and gentlemen. That is advocacy for you. That because you sent deliberately and you went out and carried out your work, through your normal work of reporting and the like, or you took a special interest and you did investigations and you reported, all this work is now paying off. That's what we do when we do advocacy. So at the end of the day, we talk about clear messages that are concise. We talk about platforms. And that's why I love the lab. Because I'm not talking about people where we're going to say, because usually under normal circumstances in civil society, when we are talking about advocacy, then you say, now where are the channels? Should we use radio? Should we use TV? People don't have TV. That's not going to work. Should we do a Bimeza? Yes, people attend those. Okay, but these events when they are running, which media do we want to report about the event? You see where you've always been coming in. Peripheral, peripheral, peripheral. And now we are saying, no, media is important. These professionals have now to come down and get immersed into this work. It's actually their work. Because the moment we sit here, and I think Sarah is going to, and the team tomorrow, they are going to talk to us about themes. What do we really want to do when we go into respect for maternity care and our lab, okay? These are some of the things that we are going to discuss tomorrow. You will begin to see that actually we are now media advocates. Okay? And you will see a lot of work that's going to happen in that. I promise you, me as Mona, that I'll be one person who is going to interact a lot with you. Our first test case, not a test case, but our maiden flight is respect for maternity care. But if you look at Uganda and all our issues, I mean, this is a very, very tiny percentage. I don't even know how to put it when we talk about healthcare in Uganda. Okay? Healthcare in Uganda. This is a very, very small component, but very vital. Because the moment you begin to look at all our policy documents, the moment you begin to look at all our updates, even when you look at our UDHS report, the Demographic and Household Survey, okay? It will immediately highlight issues to do with our health, and it will talk about maternal health, okay? And maybe the other issue that I need to highlight, ladies and gentlemen, is this. Being a media professional is one thing, and that is a beautiful thing. The one thing that for me lured to study media as a profession was that I knew from the onset that this is one of those crafts that take you anywhere. You can meet just about anyone. Who knows? How many of you have interfaced with His Excellency the President? And you ask him questions directly. Okay. Hands up again. Those are, you see, the cream de la cream. The rest of us here, I don't know where we fall, Bernard. How many of us would love to interface with the president? Whether about media work or as people, or as Ugandans. I use the president because, look, this is the fountain of honor, the highest office, which I would assume is not a place you just enter. Yeah. I want to talk to the president. No, you know, we've heard of stories, true or not true, but we've heard of ministers who've been appointed and they never get time with the president. So who are you to interface with the president? It's a privilege. So media is such an interesting craft that it gives you access, almost unfiltered access, you get. But it also depends on how you do your work. So media gets you places. And that is why you have already that huge opportunity and huge advantage that you can do just about anything that you want. The other thing is that we are so much used to the idea of, let me go where I've been called, report this story, come back. Next day, go on to another story, okay? But have you ever sat back as an individual and said for yourself, what are some of the projects that I can begin to develop as a media person and take passion and interest in them? You see, Sarah here was a bit modest. She never talks about some of the things that she has done. But in the past, when for us who are always running after stories, Sarah would always talk about subjects and themes, and you look at her and you're like, I don't know where she gets the energy to think about these things. She has been in Karamoja. She spent there months working with the communities, living in the, what do they call them, manyatas? Living in the, she has the photos. You can ask her, she can show you, you know. Then she went and did some work with people in Renzori region, what we call minority communities. So when you hear the kind of stuff that gets Sarah really running, no wonder the organization is called Native. You know, she has that passion. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're seated in the room here and you've never heard of the word passion, you better develop it now. Because I assure you, if you don't have passion, you can't do advocacy. Advocacy sometimes can be frustrating. Why? Because it's not one of those things where you do something and tick it off by the end of the day. For example, you come here, you write a story. And after writing the story, at 2 in the afternoon, it has already run. Okay? And nowadays, people who work in traditional media, whenever I get a chance, I tell you guys, we need to strap up our boots because media has changed. Media now belongs to everyone. It's no longer something that you just say, oh, I'm the media person. By the time we are done with these 2 days, the bloggers here like Chimp Reports and the like, we already have run all the things up there, you know. So sometimes when you go in the evening and sit at home, listen to the news on radio, and then at 7 you begin seeing the main bulletins of the TV stations. Don't you think around 60–70% of that news is already stale? Because we spend the whole day looking at Phoenix, Chimp Reports, Oprah, all these things are just running stories, you know. And then we have our social media. People was, did you all read about the story where someone talked about mud and sand and whatever gravel being poured in Lake Victoria near Chituru? Yeah? And then Nema swung in a day or 2 later. Where did that report come from? How did it start? If you remember. Who triggered it off? I don't know if she was a counselor, but it was a lady. Yeah. This lady took her phone, shaky as it was, stood somewhere, started narrating. You see these people, what they are doing to our environment, these people are heartless, da 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 da. She's talking in real time and showing you, what more do you need? The decision makers, the moment they saw the viral video, they all got up. And that is advocacy. Otherwise, if the news reporter went and then said, we need to talk to the commissioner for NEMA. He's not here. He's abroad. You will see him 2 weeks from now. Okay, let's wait. That story go. She did something, and within a few days, everything changed. Okay? How successful eventually it will come and whatever. But here is the thing. When you do advocacy, it no longer is something that only you are doing. By the way, you should be intentional when you're doing advocacy. You have to rally others. And what she did got the entire country talking. And that's what advocacy does. Because if you want people to believe you, you have to have a big voice. And sometimes the best way to have a big voice is to have everyone else rally behind you. So that your story, your argument is believable. Okay? And the last point, which is important, I mean, there are so many other things that we are going to talk about, but the last point, which is important, is, and I think this is something that every journalist should and they always use, you have to have the facts. You cannot be a speculative person. Even in your field, I know that's not acceptable. I remember we have the other 10 commandments. in journalism, like not misspelling people's names and misrepresentations and what, but facts are very important. Facts are what bail you out, because your job is to show the facts, tell them the story the way it is objectively, and then step away. Okay? So in advocacy, the best tools that you must have among your arsenal is facts and data. Talk about something that you really understand. Talk about something with command. Talk about something where you're confident. And you don't have to be the expert. That's the thing. You see, like I said in advocacy, when you rally other people, bring other people on board. I can sit here and start talking to you about the respectful maternity care assessment that we did in the districts. I've been in all the validation meetings, I've read the report, everything is up here. But I'm taking the initiative to say, why is it I don't call the person who actually carried out the assessment, the person who interacted with the respondents? Because that person's representation and giving you facts will have a different tone to it. And maybe it will appeal more to you than if Mona stands and says it all. You get the point? So sometimes when you're doing advocacy, you can take a lead in something. But if you understand that my colleague in Kamuli and their radio, they've spent the last 3 months talking about this issue, I think they are best placed to take the lead. Give them a chance. So that's why I'm saying that when we collaborate, even as media practitioners, the most important thing is who is going to get us over the line. You've all seen relays. Do we all know relays? When these people run and then I give the kati to the other person and then the other one takes it and the other one takes it. Relays are nothing else apart from strategy. It's strategy, it's endurance, it's tenacity and how fast someone runs. So the strategy will be, what should we do? Should we put the fastest person at the beginning, in the middle, or whatever? They will look at the other team, the way it's assembled, and say, give this person who gets tired a bit according to us and our times. Let them go fast. We want our fastest person to be at the forefront, or we want the fastest person to give advantage to all the others. It's strategy. So when we are doing advocacy, we have to strategize. These are tactics, okay? For example, different stakeholders or different decision makers will appreciate things differently. There might be a report that you want to do, but you ask yourself, if I wanted this message to go out and it will be respected, who is the best person? Instead of me writing it, let me get a quote from the Archbishop. I want the Archbishop to pronounce himself on this issue, because when he speaks, the people in the council listen. You could have written everything because you have the facts, but you make it deliberate and you say, there is this lady, the women's councillor on LC3. That lady has a lot of respect in the council. That is the person I want to deliver our message. So that is the person I'm going to bring in the studio. Nenga, the health in charge of the major hospital, is there. And they are the technical people. So why did you choose to leave them out and instead brought this person? It's tactics, it's strategy. Okay? So as we do respectful maternity care, media advocacy, we are going to be using our craft. We are going to write the stories, we are going to do our work, we are going to sit together and consult, and I promise you we'll be interacting. But the most important element for you to know is that whatever it is that we are going to do, we should be able to anticipate and see the end result. It's no longer about I push in stories and they run. I get paid for the stories. Yes, that's all good. I'm asking you the central question, ladies and gentlemen, under the Media Lab, if we now start to do our advocacy using media, and we are the media, and we are going to do that advocacy, what should it focus on? And why that? What themes should we pick? Why? Which areas of focus are we going to select and advance? Why? What do we want to see at the end of the day? We should be able to define that, because that will give us the momentum and the canvas to say, I want to see that happen. And at the end of the day, I promise you, if in the next 2 to 3 months we see all these results coming out, you'll be proud of yourselves. But that is going to mark the beginning of our journey, because it's going to change the way we do things. And I'm not saying we are going to deviate away from our day-to-day responsibilities of reporting on different things, but when it comes to maternity care, you will always relish in the comfort to say, I'm working on this story here in Masindi, but I have a colleague in Uganda with whom we can collaborate this story, and I think we should do it. You know? Where opportunity agrees, we'll say no. Let's bring like 4, 5, 6 journalists, and they are going to canvass Greater East, just writing about these stories. And someone you will comfortably leave Masindi when we have the logistics to go and pair up with the other guys, and you do all these reports. And then when you go back to Masindi with the other perspective, you're thinking, there is so much material I've covered from this area, and I want to collaborate it with what's happening in my home turf, and I want to continue reporting. And that is where we want to go, ladies and gentlemen, okay? So at the moment, with White Ribbon Alliance and Native, this is our media lab, and we are really incubating it and pulling it up. We are luckily supported, not luckily, but we are privileged to be supported by USAID under the Civil Society Strengthening Activity, okay, to do this work. But with the potential of the work that we want to do, it will walk beyond this year. This year to us, we look at it more like a pilot phase. And when I say pilot, it's not to coin the word that then you shouldn't take it seriously or whatever. It's to really show that this is a good and worthy investment. And if we can prove that on every objective, then we can move forward for a couple of years doing the same work, okay? Advancing certain things. Maybe the themes might change, maybe other things might change, but our work mode will only grow. And at that point, you're going to see a lot of things. For example, number 1, we'll get more exposure. Number 2, we'll interact more. We'll get opportunities to get more capacity built into these areas. But most importantly, we'll see the result of our work through collaboration, coming together, and seeing the changes that it's bringing forth. Okay? I want to really end with this analogy about our country, Uganda. Okay? Sometimes you hear a lot of people making statements and asking themselves, well, what are you really doing to create the change that you want in our country? And ladies and gentlemen, sometimes when people are asked such questions, they think with political lenses or other lenses or whatever. But I think we really need to put ourselves as a key stakeholder group that does a lot of good work, that has achieved a lot in trying to bring everything to the fore so that the population knows, so that they stay informed. But my central question to you is, if you want to see certain changes in Uganda, things that you can think about yourself as an individual, and you say, I would really want to see this change, I would want to see this change. You need to ask yourself, in my profession, what can I do to build that narrative? Because our work as media advocates is to build strong narratives. And these narratives should be able to engage other people, to bring them into the fold, to ask the fundamental questions. Maybe sometimes we don't even need to ask those questions ourselves, but we need to get people to begin asking those questions, okay? So that at the end of the day, whether we are influencing policy, which is usually the underlying rock of advocacy, that if you do successful advocacy, then you will impact policy change. Why? Because all countries or all nations will work towards development goals, but all these are embedded within what? Policies. And that is why the moment you say advocacy, at the end of that they are saying, did you change policy? Okay? That is the ideal. But I always say this emphatically, that the moment you're doing advocacy in developing countries, and here I can even say in Africa, you have to look beyond that angle. Because if you talk about policy development in Uganda and policy change, you always know the the phrases that come along with that. That Uganda, we are so famous in producing what? Viable and sound policies. But there is always that other next step, from policy into action. And that is what our tool should be able to do. Can we influence the policies that exist to be seen in real life? But also importantly, we should know that when it comes to leadership and decision making in developing countries, the people who hold the power to decide usually don't necessarily or 100% look at policies. What does that mean? Because if you found a fellow person, a fellow colleague of yours doing advocacy in Europe or other countries in the world, they only focus on one thing. If I can impact this change in policy under subsection this, once that change is there, they walk away. Congratulations, the work is done. Do you know why? Because those countries systematically follow the policies. They say, they use rulers. We are supposed to allocate what? This percentage every year. That's it, allocate. There is no discussion. It's there. It's in the policy. In our country and others, sometimes you don't necessarily see that happen. For so many reasons. Okay, so that's a given. What does that mean? That in countries like ours, you've come to a point where you see that the decision or the belief of the LC5 chairperson in District X, or the clerk or cow in township or District X, or the decision of this minister matters a lot. Okay? That's why sometimes when certain issues come up, where does everyone look? We are waiting to see what the president is going to do. Because these are decision makers. And their decisions will always influence a lot that happens down the line. Which means that we should also be deliberate in our advocacy. Don't only focus on policy. It's important, by the way. It's a starting point. We have to always have strong and sound policies. And as advocates, we have to take interest in knowing what the policy says and what the preferred position should be. Okay? But move further and go for the decision maker. And speak to them in the way that they understand or the way that appeals to them, so that they can see your point of view and engage them. Because once they are convinced of your line of thought, if they say, I think we need to do this, or we are going to change this, what happens? It happens. If you talk about salary increments, if someone says, okay, we should increase salaries, it will happen. Okay? But we've seen policies that talk about salary increments and the like, but they simply remain policies. So you might go to a health center and you want to advance maternal health, and you're looking at this poor health center in charge, and you're bombarding them and you're asking them questions and the like. But as an advocate, ask yourself, does this man, despite the fact that he's the in charge, have the power to make all the decisions? Yes, as a health center in charge, that person can make certain decisions. So they are powerful. But there are clearly some decisions that are beyond them. And for you, it's your responsibility to say, I better go and talk to the other person, because that person is the one whose decision will influence what's going to happen down here. So that is having like the open mind view, and you say, okay, if I'm doing advocacy, I should be able to identify the key stakeholders, the key decision makers, and then see how I'm going to engage. So if your story or your piece, which has an advocacy intention and angle in it, okay, is going to be written, be sure that when you're writing and sending your message, you're sending it to the right person. Otherwise, if you write a story about Namayingo Health Center, and you just dwell, the health center in charge wasn't available for comment, and at the end of the day, my question is this: okay, I hear your point, I can see the issue you're raising, but who is making the decision that will impact the outcomes that you want to see in Namayingo Health Center? And if I don't see those in your story, then I'm saying you shot in the dark, or you shot blanks. Okay? The idea should be that get all the stakeholders and be sure that these are the people. It also calls for you to do some intelligence, okay? That you actually take time to investigate. And this is when we put on our investigative hat and you say, when I go in the district council in Masindi, who are the influencers? Sometimes you find someone seated in a district council, they don't say much. They're always there quiet. When you say hello, they say hello back. Welcome, sir. They say hello back and they're happy and whatever. And then these other people who we call the parrot-like, come and they debate and they talk and what, and everyone says, oh my God, that councillor woman, Sarah, is very, very good. She talks a lot. But does she decide anything at the end of the day? Nope. This other person who comes and sits, after everything has been said, he'll just twist his neck and say, that is not practical. Story. He didn't even say it out loud. He just said it to two people. That is not going to work. Full stop. So for us, we went there and engaged an entire day with all these counselors who are giving us praises and who are talking and whatever. The decision maker was not moved. So it means when we are doing our work, we want to engage the right people. Engage all, but be sure that you hear the sentiment so you have the understanding of the final decision makers. Okay? So we can talk about advocacy in so many forms, but I wanted us to discuss it in such a way that you can contextualize it in your work. Okay? And it's not something that you should be worried about, that, oh, I need to do a whole course or whatever. Like I said, you guys are media people, you're journalists, you're 60% there. Most of the work that you do, it's what it does. The only thing that we need to focus a lot more in is to contextualize now our work and fuse it within an advocacy realm and understanding and be sure to say, okay, this is how I'm going now to do it. And that is why we are saying that we are working within this media lab because we want to bring our efforts together, our expertise. We want to collaborate more. That's what advocacy does. We want to agree and discuss specific things that we want to follow because we want to concentrate our energies and efforts. That if someone is in the east, someone is in the west, someone is in northern Uganda, they are doing the same thing. And that's what will build the momentum. Okay? Recently, there was a call for proposals from the EU. And of course, civil society organizations are responding to it. But it's focusing on specific things. It's focusing on the grassroots civil society and CBO efforts. Okay? Because clearly, these are the people who really engage a lot of the community initiatives. But among the themes that they highlighted, they also highlighted teenage pregnancy. And if you've noted, this has been the key issue that's being talked about by all the other people. So why do you think it is becoming so important that development initiatives are focusing in on that as well? It's because everyone has made it a topic. Okay? And if media chooses to make something a topic, and they all highlight it and they all advance it, what do you think happens? People will gravitate. So in other words, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to say that with our media advocacy, we can set and push a lot of agendas. But they shouldn't be pushed out of bias. They shouldn't be pushed out of wrong intentions, okay? Or ill intentions. They should be pushed because we want to see certain things happen. And here specifically, talking about respect for maternity care, we want to see change. I want to feel that when we talk and castigate a midwife or a nurse who stands for more than 20 hours in a labor ward, attending to every woman who comes in with labor pains, and being objective. Otherwise, you will read a story in the news that a woman died at a certain hospital X at the gate, and she was expecting, and no one would touch her. The people in the hospital refused to help her. They did not touch her, they asked for money, and everyone runs with that. Why? It's a sensation. Very unfortunate, unbelievable, so sad, and there are facts in there. But we are not really investigating this issue. Because I do not see media people who take the interest to ask how many hours does a typical midwife work in a day. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever asked yourselves, if you found a midwife who says, I've worked for 40 years, have you ever asked them the simple question that, how many children have your hands helped to bring in this world? Some of you might be shocked that you're one of them. That this woman for the last 40 years or 30 years has helped women to give birth to their children. Those hands, I'm interested. The story in those hands. You find another midwife who tells you that sometimes I'm called in the night, there is an emergency, and then I have to use microphone, and we don't get power a lot. Then I have to go over whatever. And you ask, why are you doing that? Because where I sleep, it's about 3 miles away from where the labor ward is. And at the end of the day, when such a woman tells you that I have an unfortunate situation whereby I failed, I forgot to remove the gauze, and then this woman was bleeding, and this woman got complications because the gauze was should have been changed, and like everyone is going to attack that nurse. But you do not know that behind that nurse, she has not had a decent sleep for the last 3 months. Who works like that? And then you run around talking about heroes. In this country, sometimes I hear people celebrate heroes and the like. Who talks about these heroes? Talk about teachers. Talk about so many people in our communities. We have men in our communities, although many of us are castigated that we abandon women when they're in labor or when they're expecting, but we have men who actually are doing the right thing. We have men who have experiences that, for me, we have with my partner or my wife, we have 3 children, and I was there for each and every one of those children when they were being brought into this world. Talk to those women, to those men, and see their mindset. It's so different. They respect their women. They respect their wives. They respect the mothers of their children because they know firsthand what they go through. A friend of mine once told me that he has another friend who went to the labor ward. Because the wife insisted, you have to be there. But the moment they gave birth to their child, the man told her, you're not doing this again. You're not going through this again, ever. I'm not even going to demand children from you. That's it, that's enough. The woman was like, no. We should have like 3, 4 more, you know? Because the man said, oh my God, this is life and death. So when we talk about respect for maternity care, there is so much that we are not unearthing. That for me to look at a midwife, for me to look at a doctor, for me to look at the service provider, I can't only say, oh, they demand a lot, oh, they don't care, oh, they... No. And truthfully, there are those that should be criticized. Because I've had a doctor openly in a meeting saying, no, women, sometimes we slap them because they're being negligent. They're being right in what they're saying. But they do not have that right. And it's not right to do that. But their argument is that me as a gynecologist, me as a midwife, I've seen women kill children because they're just being, what do they call it? Cheju. What is cheju? Hey, they're being spoiled. You're telling them don't push. They are pushing. It's not the right time. They're not listening to you. Stay on the bed, please endure. They are walking away, running all over the place. You slap them and then it gets them into tune. And you'll see a concentrated person. And you will help deliver the baby. Congratulations, everyone is happy. Does it make it right? No. But ladies and gentlemen, that is our reality. You know? So at the end of the day for us as media advocates, we have to look at the whole 360 degrees of the picture and begin to analyze, begin to say, but wait a minute, where is the problem here? So in this project of promoting respect for maternity care, we are addressing what are the barriers that are impeding women to enjoy respect for maternity care. Why is it that women are not going into hospitals? Why is it that women say, no, I cannot go into that facility? What are some of the challenges at home? We had a midwife telling us that, look, I interface with women for 9 months before they even have the baby. And I tell them, start saving a small money so that we can have the mama kit. Then you have a woman come at the gate, and they come when the labor is ready, but they don't even have a pair of gloves. Now look at that conundrum of gloves. The midwife is clear in the intention. She says, I want to help this woman. That is why I'm here, and that's what I do day in, day out. But I cannot help her if I don't have gloves. The bleeding, the possible infections, the what, it's not right. In my profession, I can't do that. And they are right. But they're still demanding the gloves from this poor woman. Ladies and gentlemen, when we start talking about the subject of poverty in Uganda, it is real. And some of you have seen it firsthand. So you see where we've escalated now. We are no longer talking about respect for maternity care, but we are talking about effects such as poverty. How on earth do you tell me that a woman who is expecting a child cannot afford a pair of gloves? But that is so true in Uganda, right? And then, as if that is not enough, in a country where you say we are developed under, like, should it be the responsibility of a woman who is bringing life to really get a pair of gloves? If you say we have strong and equipped and supported and funded health centers and we have sound health services, you're telling me we don't have enough pairs of gloves? Isn't that true? True. And then you're telling me this woman did not take this pregnancy through a cup of tea. There was someone, a partner, so irresponsible that after 9 months of someone telling you I'm pregnant, you've not even afforded her 10, 5, 20,000. But keep in mind, you guys have covered stories of people killing each other for 500 shillings. Echinusu. So the moment you move to Echizike, you're going into the unknown. That is unknown territory. That is bourgeoisie style, right? 50,000. But you're telling me there is a partner in Uganda, several in thousands, who after impregnating women, just walk out. That is our reality. So excuse me, before we criticize so much the government, what kind of people are being led in this country? Poor, irresponsible, they don't plan. Because really, the conundrum here is what? How much money do you need to have a mama kit? One would say very little. But in Uganda, there are families, when you say 10,000 shillings, they will say, hang me. You understand? So that is our reality. So if you're going now to start investigating that, to get back to the nurse who you said did not touch a patient because she did not have a pair of gloves, tell me, what kind of story are you going to develop? And what kind of advocacy do you want to do about that? You understand? The teasing here is to show us that within just one issue, you can tease out so many things that you want to cover for an entire month. But at the end of the day, what we are trying to paint here is a picture of our reality. And then at the end of the day, we have to ask the key questions. Who is responsible for doing what? And what kind of change do we want to see? Do we want to see equipped hospitals in this country? Yes. Whose responsibility is it? But for God's sake, do we want to see women going to hospitals when they are prepared also? Because our reality is not going to change in 1 week. So how do we ensure that our communities are also resilient enough to plan? Okay? And when you go to hospitals and you go to these places and the like, beyond this small subject of respect for maternity care, it sits under a very big umbrella called maternal health, where you now have even to talk about issues to do with family planning. Because chances are, sometimes when you go and talk to these families, where you see these tragedies and travesties, you'll find a poor woman giving birth every year. And what does that translate to? It translates to burden. And not only burden on this family, this poor family, burden on the community, putting pressure on the health center, and eventually the government. Do not think for a moment that the government of Uganda does not fund health centers adequately. That's for you to investigate. But I can tell you they put money, they allocate budgets. Is it enough? That is for you to investigate. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes as our government is trying to do things, the actions in the communities are also interesting. They don't make it any easier. And then, of course, it will circle back. Okay, if we want to promote family planning under maternal health, what should we do? Welcome, Dr. Lukoda. This is Dr. Lukoda, but he'll have a chance to introduce himself. So that is kind of the whole design and the whole... So the point here I'm trying to raise, ladies and gentlemen, is in advocacy, we really cut and dice and we begin to interrogate different angles, beautiful angles, interesting angles. And tomorrow when we are doing our theme development, we are going to dive back into this in a practical way. Because maybe what we'll do, Sarah will guide us, but we'll go into these small groups where we can pick all these things and begin just to tear them apart, but with the intention of saying, okay, now we need to bring them together and say, let's focus on this and this and this and this. Because at the end of the day, whatever it is that we are talking about, it's reinforced by so many factors. That's why as an advocate in media, you need to begin to have eyes that see beyond the line of just a news story. You remember where we started? It was a woman dying at a gate. But you see where we are now. Down in the communities, looking at the economy of this country, looking at the whatever, so many things. Because ultimately all these contribute to the outcomes that we see. If women are not going into the hospitals to interface with the right professions, with the medical personnel, there is an issue. Okay? If we can ascertain that our facilities in Uganda are not well facilitated and equipped, there is an issue. And with all these issues, there are decision makers behind them. And this is what we need to know. So that we can take these issues using media and raise these issues. But when I raise an issue as a media person, I want to be sure that if the community is listening, they need to understand what their role is. Because for me, if I'm doing such stories, I would want to take an angle where I can do a story and tell off the men, not in a bad way, but to say, ladies and gentlemen, as we look and appreciate in our country, Uganda, both women and men, whenever you think of having a family, number one, stop making it accidental. That is one of the things I always tell communities. In this day and age, where people are using smartphones and the like, please don't just wake up and say, oh, you know what, I'm pregnant. But you see, you can't say that without appreciating our society, our community. Because when we talk about smartphones and all these things and whatever, to some people there are privileges that they don't even appreciate. That they are far ahead of them, you understand? Someone is somewhere in a village, deep, deep, deep down. You know these places, you've been there. Okay? And then you see this person, they are now pregnant, you're telling them to go like 30 miles to find a health center. Probably they don't even have the transport to go there. So their reality is so different from this reality. But at the end of the day, those people are entitled to rights. They are citizens of this country and they have rights. And it is up to someone who has a responsibility to ensure that those rights are fulfilled and they are guaranteed. And that is where our work comes in. That we can make an issue that do not think because people are so far away from the village where they are voiceless, they don't have a right or they don't have an issue. They do have issues, challenges and the like. Please, the one who is responsible, respond. And we can do all that. So do you see where you see yourselves as media advocates now and no longer just 6 o'clock journalists? I say that with due respect, please. I wouldn't want to be misunderstood. I'm just trying to kind of impart different lenses in your eyes so that we can all begin to kind of appreciate and use these lenses. And they are beautiful and important lenses for us to successfully do our work. So with those few words, I now have another opportunity to talk, but I welcome you to this media lab. It's an adventure. It's really a trip. And I would want us to really go in with an open mind, enjoy this experience, and there are a lot of benefits, I promise you. You know, you would really get to meet people you haven't met, to interact with people you haven't interacted with. But it's always important to have an intention that if I'm doing this, I'm doing it because of this conviction. For advocacy, that's always very important. And then out of those convictions, the passions come. Because with advocacy, sometimes you really find challenges. She's, for me, usually one of my best advocates. Sometimes when Sarah tells you the kinds of things she's going to do, I'm like, Sarah, that's not doable. You know, she knows my pessimistic side on certain things. But Sarah's passion will just push her to climb mountains that you don't think she's going to climb, and you're like, okay, she's at the top. I don't know how she got there, but it's the energy, it's the passion, you know? Otherwise, with advocacy, if you're not with a conviction and you don't have the passion, things rattle you very quickly, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. Let me do the things that I'm used to doing. Yet when you have that drive, whenever these obstacles come, you just find ways of navigating past them, and then you continue advancing and going. Okay? So maybe at this juncture we'll take, Sarah, can we take like a 5-minute break? I don't know.
I don't know. We could afford to do that. I was hoping maybe they do a Q&A.
Yes, after our thing after the Q&A. Even if it's just 3 minutes.
So that they don't lose the thought process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay. Questions at this point? Remember, there is no right or wrong question, and it doesn't have to be a question. It can be an opinion, it can be something you want to add on. It's supposed to be also a conversation, okay? So it's time for us to interact. Yes?
Thank you. Once again,
If you feel the need to stand up and come in front, please do.
Mine is this is very interesting. And for me, we are learning a lot. By the time we leave this place, we will have learned a lot. Now, my question is, how are you going to help us? We have a disease. We have a disease. Because we have a disease of killing stories. It is within us. If I can cite an example, one time during COVID time, one of our colleagues wrote about a story, and it was a true story. A certain NGO came up with some good money, helped vulnerable families, and the balance of that money, which was about 90 million, was given to the district. This non-government organization gave this money to the district, maybe to help other vulnerable people or communities. Now, when the district sat, it decided to divide this money amongst themselves. Now, one of our colleagues wrote about this story. When the story came out, it was touching the DO, sorry, the DHO, because he was the one who was moving around, convincing his colleagues to see that they do what, they share this money amongst themselves. And for me, we thought these people who shared this money, at least for them, they were somehow well off. But now denying these vulnerable families to be assisted with this money, at least, even the RDC went ahead to mobilize a person who had posho. They brought in a full truck of posho, but these people refused, and this man who had brought the posho had to drive back the posho. Now, when the story came out, they sat at the district Now they sent somebody to come and pick this journalist who wrote this story, who ran that story. They went and intimidated him, started beating him up, and after, even he slept himself at police. The next day we went, and they helped him to come out of cells. Now, when he came out of cells, the DHO had to send somebody to go and sweet talk him, take him to the DHO. Now, after reaching there, he promised him, I think, to give him something. Now, when the man came back, the very person who wrote against the person ran another story praising this man. He is the best DHO has ever seen. But the other day, he read a story condemning him. The next day, he wrote a story now praising him. Just because he was given something. So that story gave us headache, and we started not even understanding ourselves. We said, now what was the intention of running the story? Now after the story coming out, you go again ahead and again promote the man. Now this one of ours, now when he was at, there is a certain burial we went. When we were introducing ourselves, he said, guys, I'm the person who does wonders. The other day, you had a person who wrote about the DHO who influenced the sharing of the money which was supposed to go to the vulnerables. It is me. He was praising himself, but running a story which was condemning, then the next day he ran the story, another story, now again appreciating the very person. Now, I started asking myself, if I'm the person who bought the newspaper, read about the story, now the next day I buy another newspaper, now read again a story about the same person, written by the same person, now praising this person. Can't I be confused? So how are you going to help us in building capacity about the issue of killing stories just because maybe, as you say, that investigations should be done from our media houses where we come from? We are poorly facilitated. And I think it is one of what is pushing us into now sitting down and negotiate and then maybe say, let us kill this one, kill this story. Now, killing the story, to me, means now we are killing the community. We are poisoning it. Because if you run this story, then I think we can look at solutions. But now, I don't know. So, we need your help. I thank you.
Question here?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Nathan. Mine is about the procedure told us about advocating for rights of these mothers. You are leaving something behind. So, yes, you are telling us as journalists, you've met some stakeholders, those are leaders, but you are leaving the community. The community doesn't know about this. I'm suggesting you also reach the community. so that they also know their rights. And when you reach them, because now if I reach somebody, I want to interview her about how this affects her, she may fail to address to me. Because she knows nothing. She knows nothing about her rights. She's used to be abused in the labor ward. She's used to be abused. So even if I know we are used to that. We know the midwifery can slap if you fail to push the child. She can do whatever because she's forcing you to do what? She's saving your life, forgetting that she has the right to be handled respectively as a mother. Now, there is something here, the thing of blogging. We should also engage social medias. Look for bloggers, because I know this is now a digital world. Those mothers also have smartphones and equipment that can use to blog or to see what's posted on social media platforms. We should also engage in posting these things that the person who does not watch TVs, who doesn't listen to radios, can at least read a post on Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, or anything else. Thank you.
There was a hand here.
Thank you. Once again, I'm Ramadan Senyonga. I work with the Baba Media Group. I think if we continue like this, some of us we shall go back when we have got a lot for sure. I loved your comparison of the reality versus what is happening. I also wanted to tell you some few realities which is happening in our media houses. About 10 years when I'm in the media. Now, I believe everybody knows very few media houses in our country here pay, especially these ground journalists, reporters on the ground and so on. So when you're talking about advocacy, to be open, it involves a lot of passion. Yes, I love that. But there are some times where these people need to be facilitated. My brother was talking of a colleague who can even kill a story. If I'm to be open, you know, I love speaking the truth. If you are saying, tell us how many of the members here who have ever dropped a story, who have ever eaten money, you may get so many. That's the truth. So many people work through to change their lives, though they are those with passion. Now, when you're speaking about the reality, it goes back to where you work from and our bosses. If a journalist wakes up early in the morning to go and look for a story, and at the end of the month is not going to get anything. Actually, for now, we have reporters who will go to a radio station or a TV begging at least to be identified by just that station. I work with Baba TV. Only that. So the remaining is going to struggle in the field to survive. I'm Gundi, I'm going to write for you this story and this and this and this. Okay, we are going to give you the first station. So, if you have so many journalists who are in the media fraternity, and actually some are not even qualified, but the bosses have seen that, okay, because of our maybe budget and so on, we can have 5 people, 3 or 2, who are just there to help us. And those are the people you're sending to the field. Believe me or not, if it is a case of, let me say, defilement, is that person who will go later to either one of the family members and say, you know what, I may drop this story. Are you able to sell your goat and you give me this money? Because he's looking for survival, and it is just a reality, as you were saying it. He feels like when I get that money, okay, I'll have a reason to buy food at home, because he has left the family, they're not eating. Some people at home, it is now 3 months they have not paid rent, and anytime they are chasing him, he has no hope of getting money from the station where he's working from. So I don't know whether it is beyond you, but if you don't address this, there are so many people who are working without expecting anything, and the only alternative is in the field. That's why my colleague is saying somebody writes a story, it may be true, but after sitting down and say, you man, you spell my name, do you know I can give you this and this and this? Okay, then I'm going to write a good one, and I change all that. He may be wrong, but on the other side, he's also saving him. So he has worked for about 7 years. You know, there are people you can tell, he has been in the media for 10 years. Where does he stay? He's renting somewhere there, a kiosk of 70,000. And when those people sit down, say, 7 years in the media, I really have nothing. Okay. At least I think, and some of them have examples. Gund was also like this, but when he wrote this story and he went and intimidated ABCD, he was able to get this and this. So the solution at least should be there. For advocacy, so many people can write. Have an example, people can have a good story. You go to the DHO or any other person and they just refuse. So can you please comment on this and this and this? I'm not ready. And for us in the media, we also have timeline for our stories. There are those on which cannot wait. I've ever visited a certain health center and they say, you have to write. You put it in writing, then you submit, then we shall respond. There are stories where you don't have to wait for those people to do all those procedures and so on. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Yosa Muguchiwaki, and I write for the New Vision, Masindi, and Kiriandongo. I want to thank you, Mona, for the presentation. It has been good and educative. It is true, as journalists, we need to be analytical if we are to answer the so what question. Yeah. But now, we have talked of if we are writing these issues, we need to collaborate with other journalists in other areas. But now, you find some areas with specific issues, and these specific issues need time and enough space. And for us in print, the issue of space is so critical. And I wanted to say this, that if we are doing these stories, are we supposed to first consult you before we go ahead as Native Voices or White Ribbon Alliance? And another issue is we need, I think, to be given opportunity. If we identify some issues and we need to write about them, we stick to those issues instead of saying that you need to call the other side. Yes, there are issues which are national, but there are also specific issues which need more space, more time, to be given more time, such that it can come out well. Because when you bring the issue of Busoga, Masindi, Kiriandongo, you may find yourself losing meaning. So I wanted to get clarification on that, if we are supposed to get to consult you first before we continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Karunga Shram. All right. Oh, thank you very much. I'm Karunga Shraf, UBC Television. I'm with at least a wide experience. Some of this issue, we can disseminate the information, but with the current situation in the press or in Uganda, we have the issue of the PRO. You get a burning issue, a burning story, then story, but then when you're trying to take it to the print media or television, they will tell you you should get the interview first from the PRO. As I don't know whether you understand that. Those entities, yeah? Exactly. You call this person on phone, the man is not on. You call this person, the man is not picking. You call the person, then the man is like, I'll call you back. But then this very issue is so touchy that it's like a bushfire in a certain given area in rather in the district. So as we are partnering with you for this campaign, how are we going to handle this kind of situation? Thank you. I hope you've got me right.
Just to notify you that there's people online who want to ask. So the people online, please bear with us. We'll get back to you. Let's get this question or comment, then we'll come to you. I think Alan will set for them to put to us, right? You know it's set? Okay, so the people online, in 5 minutes, we'll get back to you.
Good morning once again. My name is Moses Mutaka. I work with NTV. Moses Mutaka. I work with NTV, Spark TV. Now there is a certain issue about, I don't know whether maybe you have engaged this, because when we are dealing with the respectful maternal health care, the so-called medical superintendents have to be brought on board. These are the people majorly on the district referral hospitals. I had a concern. I had referred a story some time back about a certain mother who died. She was an unexpected mother, but at the end of the day, she lost her life. Then I was attacked by one of the MS of Kamuli General Hospital. After hearing the story at around 10, he called me and even threatened to kill me. Because I remember he called and said that, believe me you, not only will I sue you, but I will kill you. So that thing alone really, I really felt I was not myself. I went ahead and filed a case at police. Police told me to go ahead and make a call print. I did that. I went up to Airtel. I did a call print. We went up to court, but all my efforts were really were fruitless because this man connived with the prosecutor, and my case was killed. Now, what was the basis of this? This is a mother who was from health center 2. She was transferred to a health center. From health center 2, she was referred to a referral hospital, Kamuli General Referral Hospital. But that was done very late. She reached hospital at around 16 hours. And at around 16 hours, there was nobody who was attending to her. Then doctors came to her at around when it was coming to past daybreak. That was around midnight. And when they did their checkup, it was recovered that the fetus had already died in the womb. So, not telling her that the fetus had died, this poor woman, because first of all they told her, you buy the scissors, you buy the gloves, you buy the gauze wire, and other accessories. But this woman was not even in position to do that. So the woman was transferred to another hospital. That was the Kamuli Mission Hospital. That's why in some of our arguments we are saying that why is it that other people are being referred from a government hospital to a private hospital? Then the doctors were saying that that is okay. Now, upon arrival at the health center, I mean at the hospital, the woman had already lost her life. So when I made up that story, I mean when I made up my investigative story, because I went up to where the mother had already been buried, I talked to the different stakeholders. They gave me the opinions. Then from there, I went to the DHO. From the DHO, I came back to the MS, trying to ask him what was the cause. Now he was saying that, you see, by the time that woman died, we didn't have enough medical facilities. The hospital had run short of gloves. You talk of tablets. So in my submission, I was saying that a mother, Kamuli expectant mother dies as Kamuli ran short of medical facilities. Then that's the reason as to why the man was on my neck. Why do you run a story? Eh? Who gave you the authority to do this? As if I was meant to seek for his intelligence before I run the story. So we're just seeking maybe for your help. Then other things like you see, we from the other side, we are in districts where it is we're in a hard to reach area. Those hard to reach areas. You want to cover a story, you want to go to Uganda, but you look at the overland haulage, it is hectic. So I don't know maybe how you're going to help us. Then the other issue, maybe I'm just seeking that maybe we have a network, a network, or maybe we create a WhatsApp group about this, about whatever is transpiring here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alan, you said, so as Alan sets up for the people online who are with us, let us first respond to some of the issues that have been raised now, and then we'll come back to the people online. We're coming back to you. Be patient. Yeah.
Maybe, Sarah, the other alternative could be that if they can also, I don't know,
right.
It's easy for them to write. They can just write this down and then someone can.
Yeah. But also maybe they want to interact.
That would be good if the
Yeah.
technology can allow. I hope our magic brain can get around that. Thanks, Alan. And thank you, Alan, very much, because as much as right now they can't send in the questions, at least they've been part of us so far, and they can get everything. So we thank you for your efforts. Let me try and give my thoughts on some of these. I'm sure Sarah is going to give some of these responses as well. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind each one of us that this is an interaction. I don't stand in front here to be the guru of knowledge, and some of the issues you raise are actually to do with that profession and how you run it. But I can give you feedback as much as I can. So if each one of us or anyone has a response to any of the questions that have been raised, please share and give us feedback. Because it's also, some of the questions are touching on our day-to-day practice and the hurdles we go through. And some of you might have had ways of how to circumvent some of these or how to go around them. And we would love to hear what you've managed to do and how you've done it. I can also promise you that moving forward, we'll always have these opportunities to interact, mostly online because it's very expensive to get us together physically. But whenever we have these stop and pause and check meetings, which are not meant to take like more than an hour and a half, please endeavor to participate, okay? Because then there we are really talking about some of the things that we are doing and interacting. Okay. So the first question was about media ethics. How do we deal with the challenges that we face that some of our colleagues, after getting very good stories which should be able to have meaning and push something, they are compromised to the point that they change the stories. Or you see them morphing into other people you never even imagined they would. I think it has a lot to do with the ethics as a person. But let's not be blind, as I said, let's not be blind to the fact of our reality. That people are trying to do the right thing, but at the same time they are challenged on the level of, can I remain objective? Can I stand and take the stand and remain to the truth? Let's for a moment try to assess, when you look around so many institutions and how things are being run. You've all seen politicians who are very, very, very well polished. They talk about the issues without fear or favor. And then they reach at some point, and you see them completely change their narrative. Someone was never in parliament, oh my God, he always wanted to follow their opinions. You know, when they were always calling on radio, when they had radio time or air time or whatever. Then they come into the middle of the realm of politics, you begin to see them change their narrative. What is influencing them? There are so many factors. Money is a very strong factor, and let's be honest, we all need it. You know? Sometimes you hear people say, "Ah, for me, I would never be compromised with, and I don't care how much money you put in front of my face." I'm not saying you can't be compromised. I'm just saying let's be aware. Because these are overwhelming compromises. You know, some of us are intimidated by people, like what our colleague just said, which we'll get back to momentarily. So, as a media lab, we need to commit to certain things. Can we be authentic? And here is the thing, if you want to be authentic, give people an opportunity to give their side of the story. Even then, someone will come to you and say, but can't we do something? Because, like it or not, stories are based on facts. And the moment someone sees that a story is putting them in a bad position, they will react differently. Okay? But when we are in the lab here and we are talking about maternal health or other issues that may come under maternal health, we should have a certain level of commitment saying that we want to see this happen. We want to see this change happen. Okay? And with that, we make the commitment that when we have to work on a piece, that piece has to run. Now we need to be also honest with the reality that if you're seated somewhere, Moses, John, Mary, whoever, and you're working on a story, if you choose to take the side to be compromised because of money, okay, we can't stop you. But that is a choice that you've made yourself. But know it, and I'm not here to say something to really kind of put a talisman in your head. You, at that point, you have to make a decision between, I'm running a story which I know is going to change the lives of thousands of women in this country. Or let me kill that story and kill their chance at having a good service, okay, or promoting respect maternity care, and take the 1 million that is being offered to me instead. That is your conscience. And believe me or not, life is about decisions that we make every day. But I don't take lightly the fact that, look, what happens if actually in the last 3 months or 1 year, I've never even earned 200,000 and someone is giving me 2 million? It's overwhelming. It's very tempting. But even me when I was studying media, I was told about the media ethics. You know, always be truthful, to stand by the truth, and to be objective. And this is at a point where you have to question your conscience and say, what do I do? Okay? But I'm saying, I cannot make that decision for you. For me, the only thing that can give you satisfaction is the passion we talked about. That at the end of the day, when you sit back and you say, what does this really cost me? Then you make the decision. Otherwise, you will always meet those forces. It's not only money, it will be a lot of things. Our colleague just told us. You know, when you hear someone say, someone called me and threatened, I'll kill you, you can make it passive because it's not you. But wait until that call comes when it's you on the other end of the line. It can totally disorganize you. You know? Because people will be intimidated. Oh, do this and that and the other. And that is something that we also need to be prepared for. Someone talked about, I think it was Nathan, when you asked that, okay, we are hearing everything that we are discussing about the community in terms of preparation. I can tell you that there are so many stakeholders who interact with the community about these rights, okay? Particularly for this project, we have other objectives that are meant to reach down the community through different stakeholders. For example, under the Respect for Maternity advocacy program, we are supposed to work with the districts. And in those districts, we've now set up the so-called district task forces. Actually, ladies and gentlemen who are seated here or online, you should know that for every district, one of us from the Media Lab, one of you, has to sit on that task force. Okay? I don't know whether in Masindi it's you on the task force, okay? So for the other districts, in case no one is on that task force, please inform us, because we'll introduce you to the task force and tell you. But these people have activities, including activities to go down to the grassroots. But the districts are big and they're overwhelming. Chances are you might even go to a community where they've never been. And they never intended to go there anyway. I hear what you're saying, but I think we also have to take our scopes from the point of view that if you are informed as a journalist, it also helps us to deal with the angles of how we angle our stories. For example, if I went to a community and I'm talking to them about restricted maternity care, and I ask them the question, by the way, we are talking, but do you really understand your rights as a woman in terms of restricted maternity care? And you discover they don't. Keep in mind you do, but I'm not going to ask you at that point to lecture or teach them about these rights. It's not your job. But it gives you an angle that, oh, so it means we are talking about things that actually the community is not even aware of. It gives you a reality. However, it can even give you a chance to interrogate the fact that why is it that people at the grassroots are not aware of their rights? Because someone is responsible for ensuring that that happens. It's not you, and by God, it's not entirely me, or White Ribbon Alliance, or this project, or USAID. Rights should be known by people. Rights should be enjoyed by people, so it means they should be aware of them. If they are not, and there are information gaps, or if they know but they cannot exercise them, all that gives us realities, and we are supposed to investigate what those realities are. You also talked about social media, and you're absolutely right. But I think the first step is also for us here to appreciate how we are going to work with the social media. And I think part of your submission was talking about that. Probably Sarah will again introduce to us some of our colleagues here who are already talking about using the blogs because they are invited. Some of them might not be here physically, but we have some who are here. And I would encourage each and every one of us that please, when you have been told these people, keep in touch with them. Because as you work on your stories every day, these people would use your information. You are in Masindi, yes. But if you write a story, someone who is working on the chimp reports is happy to receive this story and run it. And the moment you run it on social media, as you rightly said, it's global. It has already gone beyond. So even when you're actually writing, you keep that in mind because it doesn't hurt. And as you rightly said, that's why I was saying that traditional media is becoming extinct because everyone now is working with online. Online presence is important, real-time reporting is key. You hear about a link accident, in the next 1 hour, everyone in Kampala, Mbarara, wherever is talking about link because people already know. So am I going to wait for the 6 o'clock news? I will wait, but maybe they will only clarify that, yes, the report I received at midday talked of 30 people dead, but this one has clarified that actually it was 20. The other ones are in critical condition. Okay, thanks for the update, but I already know. There is nothing new entirely you're giving me. You understand? And that is our reality. So I'm saying for us guys seated here who are working on stories sometimes that need more time to investigate, sometimes we need some facts, other times we are running after PROs who are not responding to us. You might want already to say, okay, but there is this half report that already my colleagues in blogging can do. And again, I'm going to encourage you that don't only look at it from the point of view of let me send to Mona, let me send, but also get into the practice of writing your own blogs. Because then you're just submitting. Already you have your byline there. And I'm telling you again, guys, our work goes with presence. Okay? For me, I was working in media. How did I end up into development work? Someone saw my work, and they took an interest in finding me. And they said, come and work with us on this project, because we are doing this and that, and we want media presence on this. And when I worked with them, 3 months down the road, I don't even know how I exited media. I never looked back. That is my short story. So I'm telling you, don't keep yourself in one silo. The fact that our traditional media is now threatened by new technologies, which are actually opportunities, we need to adopt and also move with the flow. We cannot, you know, in maternal health, there's always that coin term, leave no one behind. So even us here as media people, let's not stay behind. And we have bloggers who are here. I've been introduced some of them, others are online. Let's interact, okay? So that we take advantage. But as he rightly said, we need to appreciate. The other thing is, when you go to communities, always encourage people. Give your contacts and always encourage people that if something is happening on this topic or whatever, just send me a message on WhatsApp. Just even if you talk about it, just send me a message. Because you're not going to ask grassroots people most of the times that type. Even people who can type, they would rather use the other facility where I press the audio button and talk. Okay? So encourage people to be in touch with you, and you will be shocked at the level and the quality of information you will receive from them. And that is very, very important. What happens when that happens? Someone will talk to you on this WhatsApp voice call for 3 minutes. By the time they're done and they send it, and people get satisfaction from that because they've sent, make reference to them when you're writing this story. It can be a mention, you know, that reports coming from this village X are indicating that a woman has died on this. It's an unverified story, but we are following up. This was reported by so-and-so from this village in Muluka so-and-so and so. You've already distanced yourself, but you're giving the information anyway. Okay? That's what people are interested in. Do you know why global networks like CNN have the so-called iReports? When you look at iReports, they don't have the best camera or quality or whatever, but the importance is it's someone giving a story. It's my report. And whenever you're pushing for authenticity, the best way to get authenticity is go to the person. Let them speak. Give them the flow. Let them speak more. Okay? And that also ties into some of the point that you were raising, okay? That it's very, very, very important. Some of these stories, once we realize that this story has a potential to make people very uncomfortable and the like, focus a lot on authentication. Authentication also means that you yourself are just presenting the facts as they are. These people have said this, these people have said this, these people have said this. The person in charge of this hospital, when I asked, he said this. Verbatim, you quote them. But as we stand right now, a woman has died because it's alleged this did not happen, this did not happen. But the statements are what you've seen. Sometimes I think we run into the corner of thinking that the readers cannot discern, but they can. Sometimes when we are running sensitive stories, the best thing we can do is just present the facts and leave the readers to decide what's going on. So that when someone runs and says, you tell them, but what did I say in that story? Everything in that piece you've had are people giving their versions, including you. My job, I just provided them the flow. So don't say I wrote a story or I said this against you. I didn't say anything. I just reported the facts as they are. Go back and listen to that story in case you didn't listen very well. And even listen to your own words. If I misquoted you, then you come back and tell me I have an issue. So you need to empower yourself. And that's why I was saying that you stick to the facts. Don't exaggerate. Don't blow up or whatever, you know. So I want to run through very quickly through the rest of the issues. Ramadan, you raised the issue of our reality. And the fact that sometimes people are easily compromised, and you're right. But I think one of the things that we need to look at is, as I said earlier on, that it can be challenging, but we always have to also balance between my ethics and what I represent and what this will create. Because otherwise we'll be like everyone else in this, everyone else that we see. People are compromised. If you go to our, and I can say it clearly, if you go to our, what are they called? Our peacekeepers and the like, people, the community seems to be losing a lot of trust. You, in police, you go judiciary, people are, judiciary, whether it's right or not, you see that level of trust and whatever, it's falling all over the place. So we are not exceptional. However, we need to always remain true to our cause. Having said that, I'm sure when we were planning this, and Sarah will speak authoritatively about it, we were very sure about the precarious conditions within which we work, okay? So, like I said, that's Sarah's purview to talk about, because she's the person responsible. But I'm sure Native is going to come up with a way that when people work on these stories and the like, we also have to find a way of how to support each other so that people can work. Because it would be unrealistic of me to say that Ramadan, you went and did a story, you had to travel 20 miles and the like, and I can't even look at the reality that you need transport to get there. That's not realistic, you know? And the good thing, all of us here are journalists, apart from our doctor here, Dr. Lukoda. But we'll have to figure out, but Sarah will talk about that. Yes, I'm talked about the issue of space and real time versus if a story requires further investigation and the like. And I think some of the answers I've already given. Let's always take advantage of all the other platforms that we have. But when you are intent on doing an investigative story, be content with the fact that this story is going to take more time. Okay? That it's going to take more time, which means I'll have to spend more time on it. But usually what happens is people will choose from a story and they say, I can run this segment as a news piece, but I have to do the other feature story. And I have to look into how I'm going to ensure that it can run. You asked a question, do we need to consult NVI, do we need to consult WRA and the like? Number one, when you come to WRA, you could come and say, look, I'm running this story that I've been covering and the like, I would want your voice on it when it suits, if it's important. I'm not saying it's a must, okay? But here, once we have our lab and we're clear about our themes, you don't need to consult WRA, okay? And I'm saying when we develop the themes that we have as a lab, if you find a good story that's outside those themes, run it. For us, we are interested in running all the stories that are to do with respect to maternity care. And for me, as much as I know, once I'm sure that now you know what we are all dealing with and talking about, you are the expert. Actually, I don't inform you. You know your craft. I can only support and facilitate what you're doing, okay? Except in terms of advocacy, yes, I can build capacity and do this and the other, but as a journalist, you already know what you want to do. There are just a few things we need to stick to, and I'm going to come back on that. That when you are reporting, for example, a story, okay, and it's connected to this project or the work that we are doing or activities that you found are connected to the project of respect for maternity care advocacy, it's always important at some point to link where these efforts are coming from, okay? Because that's also important. If a USA person asks me that, how do I justify at the end of the day to the people? Because when you say USAID, okay, it says from the American people, this is taxpayers' money. So when you see us seated here right now, it's because these people have supported us with some funds to do a workshop, okay? So at the end of the day, this is a project, and I have to give accreditation, or I have to link, okay? It's always important that you can always find a way of how to loop. And I know sometimes that can create tension with, say, or whatever. Once you mention USAID, they'll think it's money or whatever. But it's also our responsibility to always explain to people that, no, this is actually an initiative. They help us to come together to work on specific issues. But it's not like they are facilitating us with money or whatever. That has to be clear. But it's always important that when we are looking, you see with advocacy, it has a keyword that they call attribution. If tomorrow in Uganda we have the best maternity care, health maternity care, I'm not going to stand here and say, White Ribbon Alliance single-handedly did that, or Native Voices supported that, or the project called Civil Society Strengthening Activity, which is implemented by East-West Management Institute on behalf of USAID. I can't, because in Uganda we have so many initiatives currently running to promote maternal health. So all these people are pulling in the same direction. But if I'm going to take some bit of credit of some work, it must be justified. And if I know that now we've created a media lab, which has somehow pushed an advocacy agenda and it's coming to fruition, they'll always go back to the attribution and say, who are the people working on this? It was a media lab. This was where? Under Native Voices, under the Media Ideas Shop. And who are supporting those people? They'll always want to trace to know where this initiative came from. Okay? And that is how it works. Other than that, I would say no. as long as we are clear on our themes. And the beauty will also be that by then we can always consult each other. Sarah, again, with the native, they will tell us on when we can always have these pause and check meetings. Well, we interact. We tell people how the week was, what we are working on, and the like, and who wants to join us, who wants to collaborate. And that is why we say it's important for us to talk to each other. Someone talked about the PROs, that sometimes they are hard to get. They just play that dodging game. I think what we always need to do is to be very clear when we engage these people. And we tell them, I'm writing a story, I'm running a story. But it's very important that I get the side of your organization's view on this story. It will run with or without your input, but it's important, okay? Because the reason why people always act that way is they're apprehensive. But if they understand the importance of giving their side of the story, they are willing to, okay? But I'm not saying here that we compromise ourselves, but I'm engaging and encouraging us that let's be as objective as possible, so that also people don't see us as, what do you call it? You remember? I don't know. Most of you guys might be young, but there are some of us here who are old enough to remember what used to happen when Uganda still was implementing the graduated tax. Okay? Some people might never even heard of it. They said graduated tax, what was that? You know? Our senior here must have, he could even have tickets of his own, you know? Even me. You have, eh? I also paid, I think I paid twice when I was with UBC. And it's my friends who even went and paid for me. Two, and then it disappeared. You know, it was a bit late when we were entering the system. And then it disappeared. But one time my mom comes from the islands, and I always went there for holidays during my school days. One time I was on the shore, and then I saw all the men coming from their buhats, running, and they were all getting in their boats and going off. And they all stayed on the other side of the water, and they dropped their anchors and sat there. I asked my mom, why are they all seated there? The people from Gombolo are coming, graduated tax, you know. And I said, what? So why are they running? They don't pay, they don't want to pay, you know. So I'll tell you, there are some people when they hear that Ashraf is coming to my office, they do that. They go there, Buziba, they call it Buziba. They are far away from you. You call them, excuse me, I'm busy, call later. You know, they avoid your calls. Why? Because of so many things. And in advocacy, there was a time when many people, the moment they hear you're coming, they close that door. First of all, they say, advocacy people, they make a lot of noise, they shout. They are always saying a lot of things that are not even true. So we are like in the same family. Media, you see the way people attack media and whatever. As much as community appreciates what we are doing, all these people who are intermediaries, they just want to clamp down on you. So the idea is that you also have to somehow build trust. You can build trust and still remain kind of a person who gives people headaches. And that's how it should be. So I'll just end with this issue of Kamoli. I talked bits and parts of it already. But one, that is Moses. Moses, number one, it would be really, really nice if you can share with the lab that story, so that people can read it and see how stingy it was to evoke that kind of response. But like I said, please, I strongly encourage that when we are working on sensitive stories, we always need to always ensure that all our ends and sides are covered. And we need to be very, very, very clear when we talk to sources. And once we realize that a story is really, really super sensitive, we need to craft stories that can take outside the box. That people don't see that story and they see you, but they see a story which is full of stated facts, you know? And when you put a story like that across, everyone will not look at you. Even the other person, instead of wasting time threatening you, they'll just want to focus on how they can justify what happened. Okay? Because they're not dealing with opinions. But once they have to fight opinions and they're saying Mona's opinions, then they start putting a lot of pressure on you. Plus, when people do all these funny things, they're looking for people to blame. And of course, people panic. When people panic, they say different things and deal with panic and pressure differently. So unfortunately, you landed on someone who was so quick with words and threats and whatever. And I'm not saying we take them lightly. I like the fact of the procedure you took, that you said, let me put a statement, an official statement, let me report to police and whatever. And sometimes it helps when you give this feedback to the people. You say, yes, you threatened me, but number one, these are facts. I did not exaggerate anything. And number two, I've reported a police case. It tames them down. So you see, the moment you put your case across to police, his efforts changed from threatening you to trying to quash the case. Yes, it was unfortunate that you felt bad that that is Uganda for you, but you see, it took the pressure away from you. He was no longer threatening, but now how to deal with a police case that you had put forward. And we can always think of how we can give each other feedback as we move forward. Sometimes things go south, sometimes things go the way we don't want them, but our ethics and how we approach our work and remaining objective is our biggest safeguard that we'll always have. Otherwise, I don't take the hazards of our work lightly. Sarah, you want to say something?
No, thank you. I think a lot of the things you've actually addressed. My only worry is that Joy is online and she has to talk to us by midday, but there are also people online. So if people online ask, because I'd like them to go ahead and ask their questions, and if we can answer them and there's still time, I will respond. If there's no time, there's also time for me later. Okay. Then I will factor in this. Okay. But now I was worried about people online and yeah, Joy, because we have, she's on midday, we have 11 minutes. So for the people online, if your questions have not been dealt with and you would like to talk to us, please go ahead. Alan, please let them ask quickly so that we are able to respond to you and also, yeah, so we are able to respond to you and also be on time for Joy. Joy, I hope you're set. We're looking forward to your presentation. All right, so what was the question? Who had their hands up and they wanted to talk to us? Christine, you need to advise who wanted to ask so that they can go ahead. Who? Brian, do you still want to ask the question? Can we also hear Brian? Brian, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thanks. Can you go ahead with your question?
I'm here.
Thank you. Can you go ahead with your question or comment?
Hello?
Hello, Brian. We hear you.
I'm here.
We hear you. Do you want to ask your question?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
We hear you, Brian. Go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm Wafile Brian. I'm based in Kamuli. I work with HEPS Uganda. I first of all want to thank White Ribbon and Alliance for really having an engagement with the media personnel. I think as far as respectful maternity care is concerned, we really needed the media people on board. I also like the fact that Mona emphasized some key issues, especially talking about something that you really understand. And I think it's high time the key media personnel we've invited take keen interest in understanding issues to do with reproductive health incidents. And I also loved the fact that Mona emphasized the need to be balanced in the way we communicate, especially around issues of health. putting every other person into perspective, especially our midwife and the health personnel. I think there is a misconception about media, and people think they just want to do to incite, like media wants to incite. And I think now this gives us a chance, the media personnel who have attended this training, to come to the fact that much as we want to break the news, but we should also have the health workers at heart. And I think the points that Bonnie brought out were key. What I wanted to emphasize is because there is a media person who say, you see, some of us are employed and but we don't get paid, especially reporters on ground. And I think this is where I want to sometimes draw a clear line. According to me, there are four main areas that I feel if they went by money, then society will be doomed. And the first one is media, security, health, and education, where any form of compromise in the basis for which we do our work, regardless of how much we've earned or how much we've been paid, the guilt remains with us and community thinks deeper. So I think it is high time we thought about how we ethically do our work as media, especially in bringing out issues that are pertinent to community. We want stories of young people of women and young mothers, issues of teenage pregnancies, issues of incompetencies in the administrations in really having certain policies implemented. So we must attach a clear purpose on why we are doing the work we are doing, especially to improve respective maternity care. So I really appreciate so much the White Ribbon Alliance for involving the media. And for me, I think media, it's high time we took keen interest in the issue of maternal mortality. As I speak now, in the month of April, Kamuli lost six mothers, or April alone. The last quarter, yesterday we had a review meeting, and in the last quarter, 3 months, we had 6 mothers who died. But in just April, the quarter which is now starting, April alone, we had around 6 mothers who died, and their deaths were audited. And so there are still many issues to do with respective maternity care, and we don't want to see these scenarios come out. But also those cases that are dying, we don't see media capturing them, taking keen interest around the death of mothers, such that it comes out to community to understand that actually women are dying if they are not getting services in the community. And most of the time, the causes are community linked, either delays by community, either there is a lot to do at community level that should make sure that mothers embrace the services, but also ignorance on the pillars, the major pillars of safe motherhood, that community should understand clearly and they embrace services at the health facility. So thank you so much, White Ribbon Alliance. I wanted really to submit that we are on the right track if we have the media personnel engaged. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Very, very constructive submission and input. We hear you. Any other question, comments? Because we have 4 minutes, and in 3 minutes we should be getting to Joyce. So if there's a question or a comment, we would like to get it now. And please keep it short because we have 3 minutes. Any other comment online or question? Can we also be able to see if they are putting up their hands or anything? The people online. Anybody with a question? I also see a message. Is the message a question? Because we have encouraged people to write their questions. Can you show us the question? So everybody, thank you very much for our online. We are with you in spirit, and I know that we will plan to meet in the same space and physically meet, as we shall be explaining what are some of those occasions where we are going to meet in the presentations that are coming up. We'll be sharing that information. If we can look at the comment or message, if there is no comment or question, I would strongly encourage Joy to be ready. We have 2 minutes, so I still can't go into answering the questions or comments, except probably I know I'll dwell with a lot of this, but I just wanted to build on what Herbert said about filing a complaint to police. The other thing is the beauty of working with a network, such as like right now, we are now respectful maternity care media advocates. And if you touch one of us, because they did their work, there's going to be these loud voices from elsewhere. And of course, building into our respective teams, because there was an issue. We had someone from the task force, and you see they already have a lot of information that they will be sharing with us. But also in your respective networks, how do you share the information on the WhatsApp groups and other groups in your communities, as we also all share? But we'll dwell into that later. Thank you, Herbert, for a very, very insightful presentation. And it's funny because I keep learning a lot of things from Herbert every time I meet him, even when he gives presentations. So thank you. Unfortunately, I never pay school fees for that, but I think God gives those. So Joy, are you ready? So Joy is the programs director of Fabio, First African Bicycle. It operates in Busoga region, and I think the people of Busoga have heard about Fabio, I hope. Have you? Yes. Yeah, so they've been operating in this area. You can ask, what does the bicycle got to do with maternal mortality and respectful maternity care? But it has a lot. So anyone who wants to talk, please unmute your mic. Oh, so I've been guided by Alan that if you want to talk to us, you first unmute your mic. I also encourage you to put questions and comments in the message panel, and we'll be sharing them. But back to Joy. So one of the things that they've been doing is they've been using the bicycle. And if you know you're in Africa, Uganda, rural or not, you know the relevance of a bicycle as a transport means. Apart from not helping, because there's no air pollution, there's no daily fuel, we don't have infrastructure. So a bicycle will go into the roads, because in the countryside you can go and there's no road where a car passes. And people are using a bicycle to go places because they can even go through the garden. So one of the initiatives they've done is to use the bicycle to help mothers access health facilities, especially during COVID. Many lives for mothers and the newly borns were saved thanks to Fabio. But if I start talking about it, then what will be the relevance of Joy? Joy, over to you. You will tell us more. Joy, are you there? I see you're there. I see you're there, but are you ready to talk to us? Please talk to us. Christine, hello, Joy. I'm sorry, kindly bear with us as we reach out to Joy on phone. Maybe she can't hear us, or we can't hear her. Joy, can you unmute your mic, please? Because your mic is still muted. I do not want to start my presentation and interrupt yours, Joy, but are you there? Christine, can you reach out to Joy? Can you call her and tell her her mic is unmuted? Yes, Christine. Okay, so Christine is trying, Joy is trying to unmute herself. Alan, can you guide her? I'm sorry, kindly bear with us as they deal with this technicality. Yeah, but Joy has been engaging online several, so it can't be an issue that she's failing to unmute. Christian, can I? You get it next time, you get it. Am I an admin? Am I an admin? Yeah, I'm going to.
Joy, we can hear you. Yes, Joy, we can hear you.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you very much.
Oh.
And apologies for that inconvenience. Because telling me the host is not allowing a participant unmute, so I think it was a setting somewhere. But I'm glad now you can hear me. My name is Joy Nabutanda, and I work with Fabio. Fabio is the first African bicycle information organization. We promote cycling in Uganda, and we are based in Jinja. Like you hear our name, Bicycle Information Organization, we focus so much on a bicycle, and we envisage a bicycle as a tool of social transformation. Now, speaking about social transformation, you cannot transform or you cannot see people transformed whose lives are not okay. You can only see social transformation in the lives of people. Like we all know that a healthy body is a healthy mind. So Fabio looks at so many areas of economic empowerment. Fabio looks at promoting NMT, and particularly here we look at advocacy network. And then we have a component of health. And in health, which basically today I will highlight, we use a bicycle to enable our people access healthy services. And a part of the people we target in this health are the maternal mothers, the expectant mothers, and also following up after mothers have given birth. Now, how do we do this? We use a bicycle, and this time we don't call it a bicycle, we call it a bicycle ambulance. We all know that in Uganda here, a district, you will find one vehicle ambulance at a big healthy center, and that is expected to support or help the people within that district. For us as an organization that is looking at supporting people in various communities health-wise, we realize that this is practically impossible. The first question would be how many people are in a district for them to be using one ambulance. And then it means that these people, it is not practically possible for these people to use this one ambulance. But there are also issues involved that much as some few may have access to this ambulance, there are issues of fuel. There are issues of the driver needs some little frustration. At the end of the day, we see many lives of many mothers losing children, many mothers losing their lives along the way at the healthy center, just because they have not been able to provide for fuel, to provide for facilitation to the driver, to take the patient to the referral hospital. That was so alarming for us. So we asked ourselves a question: how best can we intervene in this situation? In a situation where mothers are giving birth on the streets, because I mean they have failed to get transport to the health center. In a situation where mothers are dying every now and then. So we bicycle ambulance. And the bicycle ambulance, it has a trailer. It is supposed to ease access to the health center. A mother is in labor, she is able to use this bicycle ambulance to access the health center. These bicycle ambulances are managed by the VHTs. And the VHTs, we all know that it is a government structure. They are in those communities. They are doing health work. But then with the help of a bicycle ambulance, they are able to easily, to ease up or quicken their work to help or deliver their services to the local person. So during the lockdown, Fabio really used the bicycle ambulance to help these mothers. And through one of our emergency response that was targeting pregnant mothers, that was targeting mothers that have given birth and they are looking for transport means, basically that. So 30% of the beneficiaries that we targeted during the lockdown were mothers. And we are very proud that at least we had cases of mothers who were able to use a bicycle ambulance to go to the health center, to give birth and all that. But then we realized that even just merely giving that bicycle ambulance is not enough for the community. So for this program, we incorporated in a component of awareness, a component of advocacy, and advocacy basically is to the key stakeholders in health. Key stakeholders in health, targeting the health workers, but awareness targeting our people at the grassroots, the mothers. So it is very possible to give a community bicycle ambulances, but then the community does not utilize this bicycle ambulance. It is possible to give them the bicycle ambulance, but then they are not accessing the health services. Why? Because they also have a mentality or mindset that tells them that you can go to a traditional birth attendant and you receive that service very well. Now, in research, for those of us that have tried to do some research around the causes of maternal mortality, you may realize that some percentage of the mothers that die utilize traditional birth attendants. So in our awareness, we're also trying to address the area of, working around the mindset. People are appreciating that it is important to access the healthy services. It is important for them to go for prenatal care. It is also important for them to be aware that family planning is there. So in our areas of intervention in the component of health, we basically be looking at awareness around maternity health, around accessibility, around appreciating family planning and advocacy to the stakeholders. However, this we have been doing it, but it is also important for us to appreciate as we are doing awareness. Who are we targeting? How are we reaching them? Is the message reaching the right people? We are advocating, are we reaching the right people? And now I will get to our key area of discussion today. That as we are discussing respective maternal care advocacy project, I want to thank Native Travel and White Ribbon Alliance for the platform you have availed to the media fraternity. It is very, very important, and I would say it is, I think, been long overdue. We needed at some point to engage the media, to work with the media, because Machas Fabio is doing all these interventions without the media. I think people are not able to appreciate that this is happening. So, what is the role of the media in advocacy? What is the role of the media in awareness? What is the role of the media? Or what is the relationship between the media and civil society? One, media needs to know that I think we are all aiming at the same thing. We all want to see communities transformed, but how we are doing it is the question here. Media, one of the biggest roles of the media in this country, in the various communities, is creating awareness. Creating awareness and creating the right attitude to the different communities where we are stationed. We all know that the local community envisages the media as a vehicle through which information passes. And there is always general proof in the local community that whatever the media speaks is right. You always hear local community referring to you. You ask them, where did you hear that? They will tell you, we heard that over the radio. The media said this. Now, if it is just evident that the community envisages the media as a vehicle through which information can be delivered to them, then it raises a very pertinent issue of the media becoming very conscious while executing their duties. And in this case, as we execute this project of respectful maternity care, it is very important for the media to be very conscious. And consciousness is a deliberate move that you deliberately say, as a media person, this is what I am doing to contribute towards the success of this project. When we speak about media, we have also the print media. There are quite a number of media if we are speaking about media, types of media or modes. We have different social media components. We have Facebook, we have the radio, we have Twitter, we have print, we have TV, and I want to add another area that probably is not recognized maybe worldwide, but it is playing a very, very big role in as far as delivering information to the wananchi is concerned, and that is the community gramophones or the community radios. I don't know if in your areas there you have those that are locally referred to as mukalakasa, those local radios. But as I say that media plays a role in creating awareness, they raise awareness in communities. When we need to be conscious, which media houses are we using? Who are the people we are targeting in delivering this message? If we are targeting the local people, if at some point we are targeting the key stakeholders, if at some point we are targeting various targeted groups, then we need to define our media very well. That, okay, if we package our message on Facebook, who are the people who want to reach out with this kind of message? How have we packaged the message? If we are using Twitter, what is the class of people that uses Twitter? If I am using print, who are the people that basically use print media? And for print media, I should say that this kind of media is one that is will create reference for future, that at some point will be required to refer that. I think I once read in print media, and I saw ABCD was happening. Let's bring this reference. Let's compare the past and the future. What is happening and what happened. But there is record, there is evidence. And then, if you are speaking about TV, how many people are owning TVs? Who are the people we are basically targeting in this kind of media? I've heard of various government programs targeting the local people, but then forgetting that these local people, not all of them are able to use a TV, are owning a TV, not all of them are reading the newspapers, not all of them can access internet. But I will tell you, we are targeting the wananchi. Is this true? So I think it is important for us to also consider the very, very local person at the grassroots who only listens to that community mukalakasa, and whatever they air out is very important for them. And for them, that is the only way they can, get information in their community. So as we are working around this project and also involving the media in this project, is very important, and we should be very, very critical and pay much attention to it. But also, the people we are targeting at all levels, we shouldn't leave anyone at all. People have suggested, of course, various components to use to approach. But for me, as a person who deals with various people in various communities at various levels, I think we should not miss out the gramophones. And as I emphasize that media, one of their biggest roles is awareness. Of course, awareness can be broken down into so many ways, and how they go about it is also another area that requires a lot of time to explore. But then, I want to say that for media to be able to raise awareness to the community, for media to be able to package information that will touch people that will touch key stakeholders. Because one thing I know, as media is packaging information as various avenues. We are looking at something, we are aiming at something, we want to achieve something. Maybe we want to achieve a policy from government on the area of maternal care. Maybe we want to target the various stakeholders to start appreciating the different components. And maybe we want to achieve, we want to see that the community also themselves appreciates maternal care in itself. As much as we are looking at the different people playing various roles here, the community is very pertinent because this is their issue. This is their issue. It is their life at stake. It is them accessing the various health centers and they are not getting the necessary assistance possibly they deserve. I think it is Mona Aria who mentioned that as we are looking at a midwife who probably has not been able to attend to a mother and a mother loses their life along the way, we should also appreciate that this midwife again has saved the lives of people, which is actually very, very true. But then I want to say that the midwife, if we are targeting this midwife, how are we targeting this midwife? Because there are facts that we need to work with, but it all takes us to the approaches that we are using to reach those facts. And I want to say that it is very important for media to have passion for their work. I had, I think one of the participants mentioned that the media personalities, some of them are not actually paid at the end of the month, which is very, very true. And that is important. This person will leave the issue into the hands of corrupt people. This person will be compromised. They gave various examples that media people are compromised, which is very true. They are compromised because they are looking for survival, looking for, earning a living, supporting their families. But if we look at these issues beyond survival, beyond earning a living, we become people of integrity. We become passionate about these issues. Maybe it is an issue that actually will give you a breakthrough. You followed up on a story and you're saving lives of people first of all. Much as earning is also important, but you're saving lives of people. How does it feel to lose lives of mothers and then you keep on covering up? You get a story, they pay you money, you bury the story. The next time it will be you to be buried because you're burying stories and it is not just stories. This is about people's lives. So I want to emphasize that for media to be able to achieve, to be able to make a serious contribution on this respectful maternity care advocacy project, it is very important for us to be people of integrity, for us to to be passionate about this work, for us to work with facts and experience rather than working with opinions. Because one of the other issues that raise so many questions is that a media personality will write something and they'll put in their emotions and feelings. And if someone is reading that story, it looks more so and so is narrating a story. And yet, these are facts, or he even has facts on his hand, but has just failed to release these facts in the writer. And before you know it, it feels like it is your own story. So we need to focus on these facts, bring out the facts, and target the right audience. You need information. Who is the right person to give information? Is it a political person to give information on health, or is it a health person to give information on politics? Who are we targeting in this area? Very, very critical. And I want to say that, or I want to say and recommend that, considering the challenges that the media is facing, because we need to appreciate those challenges that they have raised. Considering the challenges they have raised, we need to engage key decision makers in the various media houses and other stakeholders. Because for this campaign to be successful, for example, media, you know that I think someone earlier mentioned that there are those people that will say, I just want people to say that I work with maybe Baba TV or Baba FM or whichever, and that is it. So the moment the radio allows that, or the TV allows, it means that person is not fully their employee, but is just working in that area, that I work with Baba TV, but in actual sense, that person is not their employee. Now, this person has nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose. So, but who is key in allocating the rightful people for us to work with? In this project, for example, if we engage key decision makers on various media houses, they are able to allocate rightful people for us to work with. We don't want to try and fail on this project. We do not want to see that. We would want to see successful stories emerging. We would want to see change as of course, a person from civil society. Our core objective for us is change. We want to see change. We want to see stakeholders envisaging different components in health, maternal health, envisaging them as very key and pertinent. It would be very exciting to see that, oh, government is appreciating these key aspects of health. But, this could not be possible if, for example, we woke up and approached a radio station or approached anyone we know that, oh, this one works with Baba TV or Soga One or whatever. We refer to the radios I'm familiar with media houses this side of Usoga. So if we just walked and picked whoever we picked, the chances are very high that we will land on those categories of media personalities that have been mentioned earlier, those that are looking for survival. And yet, the media industry in itself has very passionate people that are looking at also changing lives of people, that are focusing on being impactful to the local person. So I want to say that through engaging those key stakeholders at the various media houses, it will enable us come up with or work with passionate people, rightful media personalities. that will not be compromised, that will say, whether you pay me or you don't pay me, I want to see change in the lives of the people. And money will be a secondary issue or benefit, but the primary one will be, I want to see change, because it is part of them, it is part of their mission. They want to see lives changing. They don't want to see mothers dying. Today, the mother dying is not your mother, the following day it will be your sister, the other day it will be your brother's wife or your very own wife. We are all candidates of death. We don't know how death will take people. But at times we take things for granted because we disguise that we are looking for survival, we are looking for, how we can do it. But of course, I don't want people in there to assume that I am saying the people that are attending today are not rightful people. I only want to emphasize that we need to be very, very sensitive on this matter, because it is a very sensitive matter, and the media themselves know that the more they follow up on these stories, the more people's eyebrows, rise, and the more they are approached by big shots. But if you have defined, your goals, if you have defined yourself as a media person, if you are working within the values of media professions, then you are distinguished media person and journalist, and that is the only way you can, create a difference in the community. That is the only way we can have a successful, respective maternal care advocacy project, and that is the only way that at some point we can be proud and say, one day we start somewhere, we are part of this advocacy campaign, and we're able to achieve maybe a policy, maybe a law in Uganda that is improving the health of mothers giving birth every other day. At some point, it is the only way you can say that, oh, one day I was part of this journey and I did not focus on earning, but I only focused on change, creating change. But I am proud that that time, the rates of mothers who die during delivery lowered, or the way health center practitioners, the way medical practitioners, operate maybe changed. There are lots of things that can change along the way if we are doing the right thing. So, Sarah, I have another meeting that is basically waiting for me here, but I want to keep it at that, and I want to appreciate you for listening to me, and I want to keep it at this. I don't know if there are any questions. I'll welcome them, and then I'll leave. Thank you very much.
Joy, thank you very, very much for a very informative presentation, really, and thought-provoking, but at the same time, taking us into what you do, but also thought reflection as journalists. What can we do? How do we go beyond what we do? And I'm sure there are questions I'm going to share. That Herbert here said, she's good. I'm a journalist, so that keeps coming back. It's a reported speech from Herbert. You're very good. Me, I know you already. I already know it. And endorse you. Good. Thank you very much. I don't know what the journalists think here, but I want to challenge and request the journalists, especially in Busoga region, to actually follow up on what Fabio is doing. I think the people who are not in Busoga region, how about getting a story like that and sharing it in your communities so that there's similar services in your communities? Because I believe that they're very, very critical, and for me, I'm already, I am a choir member because I really celebrate what they do. But at the risk of losing joy because I'm being very verbose, I should stop and have you people give your comments or questions. At least she's given us time to engage with her. Even people online could also ask questions. There's already a hand, and please tell us your name, the media house you're working with, and yes. Joy, they're asking if you can hear us. Probably we pass the mic. Joy, are you able to hear us? Yes, she can. Okay, I think it can go. Oh, you're loud enough, right? Okay. Could you pass it? It can go a long way. Let's sing stuff.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Kalema. I work with Watchdog. It's an online news website. First of all, let me apologize for coming late. And I want to thank the organizations that have put in this effort. It's really going to work, and I think it has come at the right time, given the fact that all the headlines right now currently are on the same matter. I think it's a timing and a season. On Salah's presentation, I've happened to do some great stories about bicycle ambulances in Busoga and eastern part, but I don't know, I'm just going to forward these questions to her, because these are the questions I've always found out. The first one is, how do you facilitate the people managing these ambulances? Because most of the times we've met that the head of the facility owns the bicycle, I mean the motorcycle. When they give out, the motorcycle becomes being manned by the head of the facility. It happened at a certain health facility where we went. We found out that the head of the facility was not there, and even the motorcycle was not there, but the trailer was there. And we asked, what is it? So the second one is, if a patient, let me say a mother is politically leaning to the opposition, and the head of the facility is politically leaning to the NLM, this mother, I'm telling you, is not going to access the services of this ambulance. And I've witnessed this. Even if the parish chief is also politically opposition, is going to mobilize people not to use this. So how do you work out these challenges? Because the services are good, but the way they are manned. Another example I can put before I conclude is, we went at it was in Eastern again. We found out the head of the facility was transferred. He went with the motorcycle. He left the trailer there, it was there, and it is loading. The entire rain was hitting it. The thing was really bad. So we asked the one who went with the motorcycle. He told us that, I went when I had made some repair on this motorcycle, so the facility has to first pay me before I give out. So as the organization, how do you handle this? Because I've also read stories about Fabio. Yeah, you are doing great, but this is something that is affecting your services, which will have created an impact, I think, but this is the virus. How do you handle this virus? Because it runs from the top district managers of the health services. I've heard you saying that it is being manned by the DHOs, but you found, we went, certain DHO told us that these things, if they are not approved by Ministry of Health, we see them as something that someone is trying to drive his political move. So I'm just eagerly waiting to know how you handle this. And on the case of our reporting as journalists, I understand that we are doing great, but the problem we find out, we have some of us who are also like activists. So if you find a journalist who is an activist, will automatically change the story in favor of someone who is leaning on. But let me also use this opportunity to tell my brother, if you ever write a story and you find that you found out someone who is fighting you, I think you have to lay down and create a rapport with this man, because he will become your custodian of information sometime, because he will understand that I have my journalists there who can deliver my information. I've done this. I've had many in this city, Kampala, writing on KCC. They will even come to your door. But you just have to learn to deal with them, because at the end of the day, they will need you, need them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very provocative revelations, and hopefully constructive and helpful, and probably you are aware, but our curiosity has been aroused, George, and we look forward to hearing your response. I don't know if we have other questions. I see Samil here has his hand up, and afterwards we come to your son. Okay, let's do your son and then Samil.
Okay, thank you so much.
I hope, Joy, you're hearing these questions. Okay.
I think creating awareness is so challenging, because in Masindi, we have some sub-counties and divisions without even a single health center. But these people depend on the TBAs, traditional bus attendants, and the VHTs. When you try to create awareness, you tell them to go to hospital, deliver from the health facilities. They tell you we have no option. And yet you're busy creating awareness, you're creating awareness, but someone is telling you we have no option. We try to engage the leaders on the way forward, because they create these administrative units in the guise of bringing services nearer to the people, but you don't see any positive results. And also, I want some guidance on how you can continue creating awareness on such a person who is in such a sub-county or division. Then another issue is, I think you have opened our eyes, you people. We are going to try our best and continue with awareness and bringing out these stories, because in Masindi there is a system which was which was introduced in most of the health centers in the district, whereby, as one way of encouraging men to support their spouses, expectant spouses, they introduced a system whereby when you come with your husband, you are given priority. They first leave these women without who came alone in the facility for antenatal, but they first consider women who have been escorted by their spouses. I think these are things which we can write about, and such that other districts also can be able to emulate. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, your son. Okay, Samir, over to Samir.
Okay, thank you so much. Once more, I'm saying Samuel from the Chimp Reports and Parrot. My issue is about the bicycles, the bicycle ambulances. I just have 3 concerns or inquiries. How fast are they in terms of distance, maybe from where are they located with the health center compared to real ambulances? The availability and the driver, who is the driver, the relationship between the driver and the people in the villages, because I saw an ambulance in Mbale. It was bought by an MP whom I will not mention the names, but it was given to the brother. He was the driver. But when you have issues with the brother, just know that when you get a problem, you will not access that ambulance because it's the driver. So what is the relationship between the drivers of these ambulances and the community? If I have issues with the driver and my wife wants to give birth, will I access the ambulance, or it is an issue?
Yeah, thank you very much, Samir. I'm sure Jay is taking note of all that. Any other questions? Or are there questions or comments online? Alan, let us know. Are there questions from here or comments? Then can we get to Joy as we also try to establish if we have questions online? Joy, over to you, and I know time is not our best ally. Yeah, we have 13 minutes. Joy, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, the participants that have been able to attend physically, and also the online participants. Big up to you. I'll begin with Stephen, Watchdog. Stephen mentioned that how are we facilitating the management of our bicycle ambulances, and I think most of his questions also rotated around the area of management. One, Stephen, I want to say that the bicycle ambulance is basically a bicycle project, not a motorcycle. Like you mentioned, a motorcycle. And I said that this project is managed by village healthy teams. We all know that village healthy teams are situated in different communities. These are not medical practitioners. These are not situated at the health centers. These are in different communities. Now, this means that the VHTs, or village health teams, are in charge of managing these bicycles. VHTs are not political affiliated or attached to any political whatever. Their role is to ensure that people are able to access healthy services using these bicycle ambulances. So I would like to clarify that ours are not motorcycles, ours are bicycles, and these are managed by the VHTs in various villages. You even mentioned that if a mother is politically bleeding on the other side, and probably you brought it up because maybe there are chances that a person managing a bicycle is politically motivated or political affiliated, or having political affiliations. For our projects are not politically motivated. This is purely social work, and so there is nothing like if a mother is blue and the person managing the bicycle is yellow. No, when we are
said 30 kilometers per hour. I saw some people taking notes. I hope that invitation is open for some of our people here who may come and they're not in Busoga, but it's information that needs to spread. I know you have a meeting, but later we are also going to discuss how we are going to work, because part of what we also plan to do is come to areas, and we've worked with Fabio before, but we also look forward to working with the organization in this campaign. And one of the things we'd like to do is get people coming, like people of Fabio, people of Busoga Health Forum. Someone already told us during the orientation, and we would like to have these conversations, but we also look forward to people picking a leaf, because and I'm also glad that there are some things you said, okay, we will not, and follow up. That's very, very encouraging feedback. We look forward to working with you. I know you have another presentation to go to. I'm sorry we've not been able to have you physically, but I know we will come, and I hope also at the end of the project, as we'll be telling people, we are going to have an exhibition, and in that exhibition we hope to show people's works, and we hope people can come and join. But we have to look for the money. These guys will come. If they've done their work and people are celebrating their work, they need to be here. And on top of that, we hope that some of the stories that have to come out are the great stories, such as what Fabio is doing. The people who are online and are not able to join us for the beautiful lunch that we are going to have here, take heart. Christine is going to get back to you. That lunch that you have missed, you'll get it on Monday. But you can now take lunch, don't starve until Monday, except that we shall not be sharing with you. So what happened in the morning, I did not go through my session as I was supposed to. 2 things, we started a little late. 3, there were a number of people who were still coming up, and I wanted that to be factored in the presentation. So if we can go now, have lunch, but come back quickly so that we also are able to start early, that will be great. I'm happy Dr. Lukudo is already here. Lukoda, I'm sorry for the pronunciation. I'll learn slowly. Thank you. So, bon appetit. Don't take long. Enjoy your lunch, and see you soon.